do? Anything we need to do at all?
I don't think so. Oh, you stop that. Stop that.
Are you being attacked
Don't.
by the feline kind?
No, that was my dog. I'm surprised you didn't hear.
I did not hear a thing.
Oh, I'm shocked. That was loud. All right. I'm recording. I am on the slideshow. I am ready. Let's do this.
Right, in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Somehow You Didn't Die on Your Way to Work. I'm Joe Zeta. He's...
Zach Lybrand.
And this is yet another episode of this podcast. We're improving every time we do it because people tell me when it sucks. If the audio's been bad for the last 4 or 5 episodes, it's because I didn't know that until now. So we're operating at a delay, but we're getting better. It's a continual improvement process.
We're listening. We appreciate the feedback.
It also may still suck, but I am trying. Maybe someday, if enough of you watch this, we can hire someone to make it not suck. But that's in like 2030's time. You'll have to wait 5 years.
That's a generous estimate.
Well, there's your problem. Managed to get it like that in about 5 years. But also, they leaned into it a lot, so whatever. Anyways, we have the news. We have to do the news. Because otherwise we'll just sit here talking for ages. So we're off with these idiots again. So for those of you who aren't tuned into the current meta of North American freight railroading, Norfolk Southern is being bought by Union Pacific, as we've said. However, before this, about a couple of years ago, Norfolk Southern was briefly under threat by activist investment company Ancora, which is based out of Cleveland and really just seems to be like the poster model of, negative influence VC company that just... Activist is always a stupid word for this sort of thing because you get the idea of, oh, they're activist investors. They want to save the planet.
They're trying to make it better.
They want to... They're activizing on the... They're doing activism on the behalf of the shareholder in that they want to extract as much money from the company. So a couple of years ago, Ancora was like, Norfolk Southern is not making enough money. And so Norfolk Southern needs to do a lot of really drastic and sweeping things to make the company make money. Notably, Norfolk Southern is making money. It just wasn't making enough for Ancora's stake. And so they got the CEO fired. They got a couple of other things happened. And then Norfolk Southern got themselves into a position where they could fight off Ancora. And it was a whole big to-do a couple of years ago. But now that NS is being bought by Union Pacific, Ancora is now making the same exact spiel, complete with character assassinations of the executives and everything, at CSX. And they're trying to get CSX to merge with another major railroad, which there's only 3 left. There's Kansas City Southern Canadian Pacific, not going to use their biblical name because that's so many letters, which would be a terrible idea for a lot of reasons. They could always be bought out by Genesee and Wyoming, which would be terrible for a lot of reasons. And then there's Burlington Northern Santa Fe, which would not buy them out because that would be terrible for a few reasons, as opposed to a lot of reasons. So we're just sort of having to deal with this. It's one of these things where we do not need this now, more so than like this is stupid. It is stupid, but it's also annoying. And as anybody who's ever read a book might know, the annoying characters are actually worse than the ones that are actively evil.
So one of the things that I saw that they're trying to do is they're actively trying to find a way to get rid of the CEO, Joe Hendricks, which is particularly notable in this case because Hendricks has demonstrated a couple of times now that he's probably the most labor-friendly CEO that we're ever going to get. And getting him, well, he's getting too friendly with the peons, so Ancora wants him gone because they don't want to be friendly to the peons. They want to extract every single penny they can out of this company before they dump it and leave its dried up hulk on the side of the road.
Yeah, this is the same thing that happens to most companies that VC gets involved in when they're an established business. Obviously, venture capital, by the fact that they continue to exist, has to have some sort of successful business model. But a lot of times, that's with startups. Established businesses sort of just get the blood sucked out of the stone. Much in the reason why we don't have Kmart anymore, or Sears, or a lot of other huge multinational corporations that just abruptly fizzled, like TWA.
Oh,
You know,
speaking of TWA, I'm wondering how much longer Southwest is going to last because they are being controlled and manipulated by Elliott Investment, which is why they're losing all of the things that made Southwest worth dealing with.
you know, maybe we should both have a thing. If Wheeling and Lake Erie gets bought by CN within 5 years, I owe you $5. If it doesn't, I mean, if Southwest is a going concern in 5 years, you owe me $5.
I'm down for it. It's
Yep.
on the record now.
Well, and then on a similar vein, which didn't make the news actually, the Spirit Airlines just recently filed for Chapter 11 again.
Again,
I really don't have a lot of sympathy for them because it's like Greyhound of the Skies, and they really are like the ultimate, El Cheapo penny pinching from a customer perspective. They're actually fairly safe as a thing. They're not valued yet, but they're just
so
like
yeah,
no
Here-
sympathy.
they will get your person from point A to point B really cheap. If you want anything else, then they're going to start charging extra, and that's an interesting business model that seems to work because they're still going.
Yeah, your person, I should note, does not include bags. They're trying to follow the Ryanair business model. The problem is that Ryanair really only works in Europe, where Europeans have such a low standard of self-worth that they don't believe in like creature comforts.
Oh my God, shots fired.
Well, okay,
Jesus.
have you seen the pictures from the new Oceanos that came out? Apparently, the seat recline is that the back stays rigid while the base of the seat slides forward.
No, I didn't see that. I
It's
did see
because
that the new Acela had door problems on the very first trip.
that's teething troubles. No, this is because the Europeans cannot comprehend any form of bourgeois comfort. It's everything has to be like everything more so than just a chair is decadent. This is why if you ride on like a Superliner, it's this gorgeous cushy seat, and that like it's probably harboring like 30 years
Leans
of farts.
back 45 degrees.
Leans back 45 degrees, contains farts older than Jimmy Carter, but it is exceptionally comfortable until you get to like the ranges of the US body shape, which is like I wasn't that comfortable because I'm enormous. But the new Acelas, it's like, yeah, this works very well for Flixtrain, which offers seats for €2, and so we will just put it on the American high-speed train. And it's
French, is it not?
Yeah. It's all European.
So you have to go. You have to like on your third cigarette that you finish in like 2 puffs. You then exhale it and go. Oh, you see the whole point of the train is to make you miserable because life is suffering.
Yeah, I can't do as good of a French accent, which is why I default to faux German.
Oh, you just went straight to German. Well, I mean,
I can't.
When all else fails, blame it on the Germans.
Blame it on the Germans. I mean, since the Schengen Agreement, all of Europe is the same, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Also, I'm also really mad about this for a long time because the European seat design is the reason why I can't ride roller coasters, really. Because the best roller coasters are Swiss. And so, naturally, no fat person has ever existed in Switzerland. And so, Bollinger and Mabiard set the standard for what a roller coaster should be in, like, the 90s. And those things have just always had these fucking little tiny seats that they sell to Six Flags and Cedar Fair, which then I don't know how they managed to not look at their customers, be like, these people serve the most corn-fed motherfuckers on the planet. Maybe we should make it a little bigger.
We
No,
are
they
so far off topic.
I just so fucking what? They're listening, aren't they? Anyways, I moving on to the next thing. Warren
Which was
Buffett.
supposed to very naturally follow the last one.
Uh-huh. Anyways, if you'll notice, if you notice the color scheme on this, because nobody will notice it otherwise, I do have CSX blue and BNSF orange here because Warren Buffett was like, "What the fuck? No, I'm not also buying CSX." It's he just sort of came out and said it, which is very rare
Yeah.
for him to just like out and out deny something like that. But he's so not on board, and it's because you don't need to have he owns the second biggest railroad in the country already. He doesn't need another one. And it's, as we've said, transcontinental railroads would be a good idea in theory, not in operation, because something would fuck it up. And this is CSX, whose last management structure, E. Hunter Harrison, is the reason why most CSX yards bulldozed their humps so that they can't do hump yard switching, which is why CSX takes fucking forever to move trains around. It's just, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But it's not happening, except that it kind of is if we go to the next slide. They are offering...
Yeah, well, it's kind of sort of happening.
They're offering coast-to-coast sort of intermodal solutions, or more of them, which is essentially they're trying to get the best of both worlds, which is why I've made a friends with benefits joke over in the caption for this. Because, naturally, railroads only exist to move intermodal freight. I don't know what the hell else happens on them. They seem to be moving these cars shaped like boxes. I've never seen anyone use them. Have you?
No, those are myths. No.
Yeah, they're myths.
Those aren't real.
Nope.
They're basically there just to act as brakes to protect the valuable intermodal.
Mm-hmm.
They send those trains loaded with these boxcars that are always empty because nobody uses them over the checks first to make sure that they're safe for the following intermodal trains.
Yeah. Same thing with the flatbed cars. Same thing with the tanker cars. There's never anything in them, ever.
Nobody would pay for that. That's ridiculous.
Nope. Send it on a truck. It would be so much easier.
So now, in all seriousness, what is this being set up as that makes it any different than just what already exists, where railroads run intermodal trains with through power that goes point A to point B over one or two different railroads?
I think what they're doing is they're more express shipping this. So I assume, I'm not 100% certain, that most of these trains don't actually run through. They run to, like, a lot of them run to BNSF's terminals in Chicago, and then the train either goes through, like, the Chicago belt, like the interstate. What's the loop railroad around Chicago called? The Harbor Belt. The Harbor Belt that goes around Chicago, and then it's handed off to CSX and that sort of thing. I think what this is, it's more of a true through train, in the same way that like a unit coal train might be, where it just goes direct. I think. I'm assuming they're also opening up more lanes. So as opposed to like, you used to, like, currently there's trains that go from like Union Pacific down through the CSX lines to like their big intermodal ports inland at like North Baltimore, Ohio, or as an example. Nowadays, these might be trains that go from San Bernardino or Long Beach direct to Atlanta, direct to Jacksonville, direct to Charlotte, with no intermediate stops. It's basically, I think, streamlining, especially.
That seems to be like a lot of what they're doing already, unless they're... The only way I could see this being any different is if they're somehow, through this agreement, both agreeing to take a little bit less for this, and thus now it is quote unquote cheaper than interchanging with anybody else.
I'm not certain what it is they're doing. It's only still in the press release stage. I really just assume that they're skipping their traditional intermodal handoff points and going direct. Like
I'm not
something.
yeah, I'm not sure about this one. I am curious.
Although what maybe like you
I'm
can
also
sort of
really curious about that direct route from Phoenix to Atlanta. What the fuck is happening on that?
I was kind of wondering the little line that went from like Kansas City's to Atlanta as well, like how there's an orange line that goes all the way to Atlanta, which BNSF trackage rights and haulage on CSX. I was unaware that BNSF could run all the way to Atlanta. But as for the Phoenix, maybe Phoenix is like for cross border traffic out of Mexico, which means that it won't be happening much
Maybe?
at all anymore. Hey, yo. You know, who the hell knows? It's
I mean, by the time this comes out, the tariffs may have changed like 6 times
Yeah,
already,
there was some sort
and
of
maybe
block
at
that
this
was on
point
it.
it's changed for the better.
It won't have.
No,
We
no,
can't
that was
have things
silly. I'm
change for the
sorry.
better. You know,
That's unrealistic.
I
That's
think
not thinking about the shareholders also as well. I'm sorry.
yeah, I think also what they're low key trying to do with this is maybe make themselves seem more competitive to shippers who otherwise might have tried to use the Panama Canal. Like you can get San Bernardino to Jacksonville and just by virtue of it going out of Long Beach, it takes a week instead of 3 to get through the canal, depending on your
Maybe. I
shipper of
mean, that
choice.
yeah, if that moves the way that intermodal trains tend to move, San Bernardino to Jacksonville might be 5, possibly 6 days, which would definitely be a serious competitor for canal traffic.
It's this is still all up in the air. We'll have to see how this actually goes, and we'll
Yeah, at this point, this is literally nothing more than this little doodle we have right in front of us.
yeah. So more will come out. If it's anything newsworthy, we'll keep you up to date. So so yeah, that's pretty much it right now. Um, on to the next slide, which
Here we go.
yeah, Septa's dead.
Dude, this one made me like this one broke my heart when I saw it.
I
How
apologize.
many of these routes that are just straight up eliminated?
Yeah, I apologize that the image is crunched down a little bit. I think I got it off of I think social media or something, so it's probably a little bit bigger normally that actually like doesn't cut off the edges of the page. But yeah, no, there's just I think that maybe there'll be like a bus in Philadelphia at the end of this. Um actually the last episode where we talked about this some more was the day of the Philadelphia the PA state legislature vote, and we actually I waited until after midnight, and then I was editing the video together, and because we had a technical issue and I didn't want to forget it, so I just threw it together then.
Mhm.
And yeah, I added in the edit. Nope, didn't go through. And this is what happened. So if you live in Philadelphia, make sure your car inspection's pretty good. Get a new set of tires.
Yeah,
Buy a new set
check
of
your tires, check
CDs.
your fluids.
Buy a new set of
'Cause
CDs.
goddamn, just right off the bat, I see what is that? 57 routes eliminated entirely.
I didn't even count, but
That's
there's like at least 50, if not more. I think every single service in the city has reduced service now.
it has to.
All special services are eliminated. So good luck going to the Eagles games. Uh, without adoption of basic, and you're paying more for this now. So
You're gonna
get.
pay more and you're gonna be thankful for it, apparently.
I mean, if
The uh the special services is drastic because I see both sides of this in the DFW area. We have uh Dallas Stars and Dallas Mavericks game, which is our local hockey and basketball team that gets extra Dart and Trinity Railway Express service uh sometimes before, but always after the games. And if you choose to drive, it sucks, but it's not bad. But if you go see a Dallas Cowboys or a Texas Rangers game over in Arlington where there is no public transit, and I will say that because the like six on-demand vans that they have don't count. The getting out of there, you have to drive there. Getting out afterwards is just an absolute nightmare. Like it's to the point where I won't even drive through the area if I'm going to and from work. If it's around the time that, like, with an hour or two of the game starting and an hour or two of the game ending, I won't drive through the area. And they just cut that entirely. So now all of that's going to be even more shitty.
Imagine being like imagine like you manage to catch the only bus that runs that hour, nobody's on it, and you just sort of are like sitting there with a headache at like 9 p.m. just I want to go home, I want to go home. And the bus just turns the corner and the bus driver just says, "Hey yo, hold the fuck on," and opens the door in front of the Taylor Swift concert. And he's the only bus. It's like,
Slows down for a stop and sees everybody out there and goes, "Oh hell no!" and just keeps going.
oh my god, could you imagine like just standing in front of the concert hall and just the bus drives past, like the sign up front changes to be nope, and just skips that stop.
That would okay. I would be mad, but I would be a little less mad if the sign said "Nope" right as it came around the corner and saw us all.
Yeah, like it changes. Oh my god. But yeah, that's basically oh, and also I do like when if you look on the other side of this thing, 9 p.m. curfew on remaining metro and regional rail lines,
I
which
did
means
see that.
just
That's
don't
nuts.
just rent a car when you get to Philadelphia, I guess, or take an Uber, because
Do
there's
you?
no that
There's nightlife is not allowed. Nightlife and public transit is not allowed.
you can't even get a late
So
flight at that point.
for real. So you know how you used to go out and not have to worry about making it home, so you could have a few drinks, or you didn't have to worry about driving home, so you could have a few more drinks and then just hop on a bus or a train to get back home. Nah, go fuck yourself.
No, just
You
drive
better
drunk. It'll be
learn
fine.
how to control yourself and or yeah, or drive drunk.
You'll be fine. Everybody's fine who drives drunk. You know, nobody ever gets
Used
hurt.
to do it all the time and I made it here.
Yeah, maybe Pennsylvania will do the thing that Ohio does, where if you get multiple DUI convictions, you get reduced driving privileges and special license plates that signify this.
I wish the special license plates were more common. I want to know who's out there trying to get away with this shit on the regular.
Ohio and Minnesota are the only ones that do it right now. Ours are actually distinctive because they're yellow with red letters, and then
Oh,
they're just real plain. Like it's always funny seeing them because sometimes they're on like cars you would expect someone with a DUI, a couple DUIs to have, and other times it's on like a Camaro or something, and I'm like, really?
oh, you're gonna drive that drunk? Oh my god.
Or you're
Well,
like
since we have a president that likes to just throw out sweeping rules without consulting anybody or worrying about the legality of it all, can we get a national rule for uh, distinctly different license plates if you get more? I'm just gonna say more than one DUI.
oh god, yeah, national driving rules just don't have. Oh god, national driving rules would just be fucked in general. Could you imagine
What was
that?
that app that? What was that app that everybody got caught using to plan something? And I think it was Iraq. Was it Telegram? There was a group chat that a journalist accidentally got
Yes,
added to.
yeah,
I wonder
yeah,
if I
yeah.
could
It
find that
was
again.
Signal.
Signal, that was it. Maybe I could, accidentally get invited to some political signal chat and just drop this in JD Vance's ear.
JD, a lot of things need to be dropped in JD Vance's ear, like those brain controlling worms from Star Trek Wrath of Khan.
Might need a couple for him.
Well, they wouldn't have anything to find, so you know who knows. But
Actually, I think the more interesting one would be RFK, since they have to fight the worms that are already in there.
well, no, the worm is dead. Remember, the worm died. So wouldn't it
I
just be
don't
that
I
I?
don't believe it.
No, that just means that his immune system killed the worm, which is more horrifying than if anything. This man's immune system, this is what peak immune system performance looks like. Pans over to this shriveled, tanned raisin of a crazy person. All medicine that enters his body is just like swarmed by white blood cells the instant it gets in. You're not making him well. That's our job. It's like scabs showing up to the picket line at a union shop. They just get beaten with hammers. Except the problem is that in this one instance, they're actually better than the guys who were than the white blood cells.
Oh, Jesus.
His poorly functioning immune system only works to kill anything that might make him better.
Oof.
COVID gets the key to his body, and like the and meanwhile the needle for the COVID shot just like breaks off as it touches his skin.
Hey, every time you try to put the needle in his arm, it just like bends away.
Oh my god. No. Like you push the needle in and like just the needle gets the plunger just gets pushed backwards. Like his body is pressurized.
Fucking reverse pressure body.
I don't even know what his voice sounds like, but it's like, yeah, my body is reverse osmosis pressurized to keep all those dangerous things out.
Well, you see, the worms have prepared me for anything that this world could throw at me, and I think that has maybe qualified to tell you what is good for you.
You should smoke 7 packs a day. No.
Oh, maybe I need one after that. Holy shit. That's why I hate having somebody so funny in office, because I try to imitate him and it just tears my throat up every time.
Oh,
I feel like I just smoked 7 packs.
God. Right. Speaking of politics, we're going to go on to one more slide in the news. If I can get it to go. There we go. So yeah, so this is the first, so for the first time in the history of the STB, which is the Surface Transportation Board, or the Interstate Commerce Commission, which was its predecessor, which was created in 1887, a board member has been fired. Trump fired Robert Primus just months before the UPNS merger docs would be filed. So some people are claiming it's because Mr. Primus is black. I don't think that the racism Trump has would be that distinct. I would just be that he's not as white as I am. But that's not exactly it. It's more so that Primus is A, a Democrat, and B, voted against the CPKC merger, which means that...
Oh, I think it's like a good mix of all of the above.
It could be the racism. I was thinking it was more that he would be inconvenient in his way. Because interestingly, Trump appointed Primus during his first term. So that's why I was sort of like, maybe it's not entirely the racism or mostly the racism. Maybe the racism is just like an added side benefit. Which is a weird...
I kind of wonder if he was put on there so Trump could say, like, well, see, I put a black man in power. I'm not racist.
Oh, this is his I
and
have
now
a
he's
black
regretting
friend.
It.
This is his I'm woke. I have a black friend. And then now that woke is dead, we don't have to worry about that anymore. And so he just got rid of him. But
yeah.
In any event, moving away from the racism, Primus did vote against the CPKC merger in 2023 and was likely to have voted against the NSUP stuff should that hit his desk. And so naturally he's out on his ass. This is sort of in the same vein as firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because they said that employment numbers weren't great. You know, the numbers person. The numbers person.
They're not playing into the story.
Yeah, did you ever watch Silicon Valley on HBO?
No, I did not.
There was a scene from Silicon Valley where they have a handwriting analyst analyze one of the CEOs in that show's signature, and this guy's like a cartoon pastiche of a bunch of different people in Silicon Valley, including Elon Musk, and she analyzes his signature as like it's incredibly narcissistic, has rage issues, and you know, a bunch of other like negative traits, and he immediately plays into every single one of them and has her thrown out of the building. Get this horrible woman out of my building.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
So that's basically what we're doing. We have President Gavin Belson, basically, if you've watched that show. But yeah.
Mr. Primus was not maintaining the kayfabe, so he had to go.
Optimus Prime was killed.
Jesus.
That was what was... I found this originally on r/... Oh God, which Reddit... I think it was like r/railroading on Reddit, and it was... They literally made an Optimus Prime joke.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah, and it was an Optimus Prime joke in there, wasn't it? So... bad news for Optimus
either
Prime
railroading or
something.
train service. I can't remember which one.
But yeah, so he's out. In case you thought that the NSUP merger might not go through, it was going to go through anyways. Again, we're dealing with like Huey Long
There's almost
styles
a 0%
of governing.
chance. Yeah, there's almost a 0% chance that it doesn't pass, especially now that we're going to get somebody new on the STB board.
Yeah, we're just going to get like a racist caricature or something. Like it's just like a hand puppet with like a sock with a mouth on it, but the sock is a Confederate flag pattern. So
you know what? I'm going to throw the odds are roughly 100-1, but I'm going to throw out the prediction that RFK Jr. is also going to work on the STB.
Oh, who? So many people in this government are doing double duty. Isn't Kash Patel like in charge of two different things right now? He could do this as well.
I think it's him.
Yeah, Kash Patel.
Well, all right. R.I.P. my throat, but I'm going to say that RFK would probably make it on there, and he'd say something like,
"Well, you know, I always really liked trains as a kid, and I still think the trains are cool. So what's wrong with having a bigger train? It's good. It's good for the economy."
One day, when I was a child, I swallowed my son's Thomas the Tank Engine toy, and it got stuck in my brain, and the leaded paint controls me, so I say we have more trains go.
Oh, he got the lead, Thomas. Oh, no.
I also like how I said when I was a child, I swallowed my son's toy, which I didn't think of.
That was a weird family. That may have happened. Okay.
You're right. So anyways, that's pretty much all the news. We can stop making RFK impressions, but we
for now,
and go on to the theme of this episode, loose theme. We're talking about boats, but we're also talking about leadership in a crisis situation, which I'm so glad that I managed to find this weird,
that's a perfect little image for it.
Corporate Memphis clip art image of a boat, because that's exactly what this is. And if we go on to the next slide, we'll see what it's about, which is the sinking of the Oceanos. You might have heard of this one. This is basically the greatest example of how to bungle a ship sinking, and a lot of people, yeah.
Can I make a guess as to what happened?
Sure.
Or make a guess at what the issue is here. I'm pretty sure the boat's not supposed to be like that, so they just need to steer it back up.
It's not. Well, that is part of the problem. They can't get it to go back up like that. But interestingly, the
trying
boat
to
being
imitate a submarine.
The boat being like that, the boat trying to imitate a submarine is not the actual problem. The real problem is the Greeks, and we'll get to that.
Oh, no.
We're going back to intra-European racism on this one, boys. But no, seriously,
We're
we'll
gonna-
talk.
Our listenership is already ridiculously low. We don't need it lower. We don't need to lose the one Greek guy that listened the other day.
I'm sorry if you're Greek, just in general, but also for this. Said the guy with
So what-
predominantly Italian genes.
It's all right. I got the Irish in me.
Oh boy.
We know we're better.
Moving on. So first we need to ask, what is the ship? And
I know this one. I have
And
paid
so
for membership to websites
in-
where I learn a lot about ships, right?
yeah, in fandom, shipping is no, I can't make that joke. That's too much. A ship is a boat that floats.
Oh.
I can't.
Why am I here then?
I'm sorry. I just can't keep laughing at how perfectly the PNG of the boat doesn't cover the art on the Wikipedia page. It's such a terrible, like a cursed image. Oh my god.
That's certainly something there.
It's also the weirdest fucking ship I've ever heard of. Who ships that? Doesn't matter. We're getting off track.
For those of you who are just listening, it's an image of
It's the
Mickey Mouse sitting down, blushing deeply with an angry-looking Oswald the Lucky Rabbit kind of on his knees in front of him with one hand on Mickey's shoulder, looking sort of like, "You make me so angry, but I love you" look in his eyes, because shipping is romantically pairing fictional characters that aren't romantically paired in the canonical.
Yeah, and I need
source.
to sort of make this clear, because Zach left out one critical piece of information. This is the Wikipedia page for shipping.
Oh yeah,
this is
the Wikipedia article
is
shows
Creative
Mickey and
Commons
Oswald.
licensed fan art of Mickey Mouse and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. That is the top of the Wikipedia page. If you embed this in a Discord chat, that is what will show up as a huge image. That is filed in there under the list of Wikipedia pages that you should never link to in a chat that does embeds. I once got by the Wikipedia page for blowjobs, because it does have an image of someone doing that, like a computer generated image of someone doing that, and I put it in the chat, and I was like, oh, and I had to take it down within 3 seconds because it jump scared me.
It does not. No way.
It does. Don't put it in the Discord chat with me, because I realized I don't have streamer mode turned on.
Oh shit! It sure does.
Yeah, it does. Look it up on your own time, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm looking at. Wow, that's a.
There's several Wikipedia articles like that do things into that nature, and it just fucking kills me.
I would also like to note that picture of Mickey and Oswald, that drawing, on Wikimedia Commons, usually you'll see an actual legal name attached to these images. This one is distinctly just a screen name. And you know what? I get that. I wouldn't want to have my name attached to that either.
I just think it's so fucking funny that it's like Creative Commons shipping art of this. Like, just sure, fine. Anyways, back to the topic. A ship is a boat. It's a bigger boat. There's no actual legal definition of what a boat is or isn't. But usually a ship is a large boat. And for anyone who doesn't know what a boat is, hi, how's the Gobi Desert doing? Second of all, a boat is an object that floats in water that is usually propelled by some external force. In modern context, it's usually a motor drive that sticks out through the bottom of the hull with a propeller on the end, although other options are available. A ship is usually a larger boat, hundreds of feet long, typically made of metal. However, if you're on the U.S. Great Lakes, everything is a boat because of tradition. Again, not talking about the Great Lakes right now. We can in a future one. I have several Great Lakes disasters that I want to cover. But anyways, a ship is generally the big boats. Have you been on a cruise ship? Then you've been on a ship. That sort of thing. But moving on to the next thing. What was the Oceanos? This is a great place to start the topic, the thing that we're talking about. So the Oceanos was a combination.
That's actually a pretty cool looking ship.
It is. It was.
I do like that. It has some good lines to it.
Yeah, it was one of the many post-war passenger cargo liners that was built by European companies trying to sort of continue their services to French colonies. So specifically, this one was made by, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it in French, Messageries Maritimes, which is now which is one of the companies that would eventually go on to form CMA CGM. Specifically, it was
Messageries Maritimes.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah, sure. I bet. Specifically, it was the CMA part of CMA CGM. Not specifically important, but a lot of these were built right after World War II. You know, this is sort of like the next generation of liners after the 1912, after like the 1910s built ones sort of started and the 1920s ones sort of started aging out. So it's got like more contemporary styling and everything. It's very much of the last generation of liners. Interestingly, well, a lot of them got displaced from service either by Cultural Revolution, lack of colonies, or the airplane. This one actually continued in service up until the 1970s. Actually 1970 specifically, sailing on a route that mainly took it from Marseille to Réunion, with stops at various African ports along the way. I've included, someone has online a list of, this was in the 1960s, its itinerary. It's the return itinerary from Réunion, but it goes from Réunion to Mauritius to a bunch of places that I think are on that west. I don't know where they are. I don't know where Tamatave is. I don't know where Diego Suarez is. I don't know where Majunga or Moroni, other than that I'm pronouncing them wrong.
Know.
Dar es Salaam is Tanzania, I think. Zanzibar, Mombasa's Kenya. Djibouti is in Djibouti. Port Said is actually in Egypt on the Suez Canal, and then Marseille is in France, obviously. So it's a coast hopping route that goes up the coast of Africa.
Yeah, it goes up the east coast. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And for anyone who's not entirely clear, Réunion is still a French island off the coast of Africa near Mauritius. If you've watched any of the Grand Tour on Amazon Prime, one of their more recent episodes was set there a couple of years ago. Wasn't my favorite one, but they were there. And you can still there. It's technically part of France. It's one of those weird things where like one of the longest domestic flights in the world is from Réunion to Paris, only superseded by the flights from Tahiti to Paris, because Tahiti is part of metropolitan.
What?
Tahiti is part of France. Tahiti is part of metropolitan France. They don't do this colony shit like the Brits did. Technically, all of that is France.
That's just, that's just straight up France. Okay.
Yeah, language French, currency euro, websites.fr. That sort of thing.
Anybody who says colonialism is dead in the 21st century can go fuck themselves, because even though it's technically part of France, that's a colony.
Yeah, it's not an extractive
I was about to say,
colony.
if it's not directly connected, it's a colony, but then I realized that would make Alaska and Hawaii colonies too.
Which Hawaii kind of is, but not in the same way.
I mean,
they're not. I think we need to have a different word for. It's a non-extractive colony. Is the sort of thing. I don't think they're like taking the resources away from it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
But so anyways, it's an island off of the east coast of Africa. And that's where this spent most of its life up until the 1970s. Now, if we go on to the next slide, I would like to say that I sent Zach a meme the other day, which is, for those of you who haven't seen the website Clickhole, they once put out an image that said, "We taught this chimp to understand the Argentine financial system, and he hanged himself." You can look it up if you want to use that exact phrasing. It will seriously show up. But I just wanted to sub in the Greek ferry industry, and he hung himself because I tried for 2 days to figure out just the history of the Oceanos, and no. You have
no
to do,
two websites show the same thing. I poked into this a little bit.
and nobody has a distinct thing. You will get one of my biggest leads was on the comment of an image board that had a picture of this thing.
Oh Jesus!
This image, this top image,
Well,
was
hey,
like
props
that
to
was
that dude.
yeah, because so the Jean Laborde was sold and entered the wild, wild west of the Greek ferry and cruise trade because Greece is a shitload of islands connected to the mainland by boats. They have been sailing for thousands of years. They know they have a rich maritime history, and so they have more fucking shit. At any point in history, did this ship that you care about get sold off by its primary owner? It probably went to Greece at one point or the other. And so it was owned by a variety of owners between 1970 and just 1976. It had at least 4 different names, and the only carrier that I could find any reliable information on was Ethmiadis Lines, which I don't think I found a consistent spelling of Ethmiadis Lines. There was at least 3 different spellings of that. So that I found just on the internet. What was that?
I was trying to think, like, maybe you could figure out what word that's supposed to be and run it through like Google Translate or something to get the actual spelling, but I can see that going wrong because Greek is kind of a convoluted language.
Yeah, no, and they were spelling it in English different ways. That's the best part.
Jeez, that's worse.
This is a direct
worse.
copy.
At some point, you have to stop anglicizing it.
This is a direct copy paste from that website, from that image board. So this is the spelling I'm going with. Okay, so just to sort of also clarify, the ship that would become the Oceanos was at this point named the Eastern Princess, and also the Icona. It's appeared there are pictures of it all over the fucking planet as both the Eastern Princess and then one photo of it as the Icona. It's gone as far as Australia and the Caribbean and a lot of places in Europe. I have no idea what it was doing, whether it was sailing official cruises, whether it was doing immigration things, whether it was a charter boat. Don't know. We'll probably not know unless somebody whose name consists of like 7 vowels and 9 consonants comes into our YouTube comments. And we welcome that. If your name is like Plato.
If you could read source documents for us in Greek, that would be greatly helpful. But we'll give you a t-shirt whenever we make one.
I'll make you a t-shirt if you can give me a week by week history of this ship. But Ethmiadis Lines was a very interesting company, to say the least. No Wikipedia page, because why in the name of God would there be a Wikipedia page for them? But there is history pages because they're boat foamers. They bought up a lot of secondhand passenger cargo liners. And ran cruise ships with them, or some form of passenger service. I shouldn't say cruise ship. They also bought a quartet of oil tankers and converted them into ro-ro ferries. Which isn't that just the most fucking cursed thing you can imagine?
I mean, I guess the big open space is already there. And if you haven't heard the term ro-ro before, that's roll on, roll off. Like you're supposed to drive your vehicles onto and right off of this ship at your destination.
But to give you an idea of what sort of company Ethmiadis Lines was, they either went out of business or vastly reduced in size in the 1970s after one of these oil tanker to ferry conversions, called the Heliana, burned in the middle of the whichever ocean, might be the Med, might be the Aegean. I didn't really look that hard. Killed 25, 19 were missing. Maybe I got the numbers wrong. 250 were injured out of the 1,160 people on board. And it had half the required...
That's a pretty hefty percentage.
It had lifeboats for 600, and most of those didn't have working davits. So
It saves weight. Okay.
the tanker GTI is not a thing that should have happened. Somehow it whatever. In any event, in 1976, the Eastern Princess was sold off to Epirotiki Lines. If we go to the next slide. So this is Epirotiki Lines. This is good paint and good branding on a really fucking wacky company. Startup. Why are they wacky? Well, first off, they're Greek. Second of all, they owned boats. Third of all, I'm just going to tell you about it. So they were founded in 1850, and their pre-World War II history doesn't matter because they were almost completely destroyed as a result of that. They had like one ship that survived, and that like was worn out. Through the 1950s into the 70s, they built themselves up to be the largest cruise ship operator in Greece. So they were one of the first cruise ship companies in Greece, and they just did whatever the fuck they wanted. Like, I have 5 ships here that really sort of gives you an idea of what Epirotiki Lines is, especially as we get further and further away from World War II. So up at the top, we have the Orpheus. It was built in 1947 as an Irish ferry, going through, I think, like across the Irish Strait to England. Converted to a cruise ship in 1970, and then it sailed until 1998. Keep in mind, this is a
That's not a very big ship.
It's not. It's also was like 51 years old and hadn't been really modified. Like, usually these things get jumboized or something, but it was just cruising out there, this tiny little thing. I think they had it wet leased to another operator for most of its life, which we'll get to, but we'll get to wet leasing.
Two of my favorite words.
Yep, we'll get there. Then next to the Orpheus on the top row is the Argonaut, yacht, gunboat, and cruise ship, all between like the 1930s and the 1970s, and that was before Epirotiki Lines bought it. I believe
I think it's just shaped like a gunboat.
Well, no, it was built as a yacht, as like a 300-foot yacht.
I know, but and that yacht identified as a gunboat from the very beginning.
Look up the USS Vixen or the Argonaut, because the Wikipedia page is the same, but that's what it was. It ended up as a cruise ship. It got laid up at some point. Epirotiki Lines then completely rebuilt it from the hull up to do luxury cruise offerings, specifically. Then we have a couple of other ones. At the bottom left, we have the Jupiter. That one actually doesn't have a very interesting history. It was just a bigger passenger liner that sort of got turned into a ferry. Sank after a collision in 1988. Not the fault of anyone at Epirotiki, but it is really noticeable because it was actually on a charter with like 350 British school children on board. So a couple kids died. One of the chaperones died. Really just more of a maritime, the cargo ship that they hit was at fault.
Ooh, that sucks.
Then we have the Pegasus underneath the Orpheus. It was a Finnish car ferry converted to a cruise liner. Now, I understand that this is fairly common. It still feels cursed. It doesn't look like how a cruise ship should, or an ocean liner, or anything else. It hit a rock and was declared a total loss in 1984. This was actually in Vancouver, or somewhere on the U.S. Canadian West Coast. It was sold to Epirotiki Lines as a total constructive loss. They rebuilt it and restored it. And then in 1991, while on some sort of trade show cruise, like basically they were having a lot of different companies gather together to have like an expo in the ship, it caught on fire, or after a large explosion that was of some sort of mechanical failure, and then either, depending on the source I found, either was sank or was scuttled in the harbor somewhere in Italy, and that was in 1991. And so And so it
So
did.
oddly enough, I'm noticing a pattern here.
You're
So
gonna.
far, all of these ships have gone out of service in the same decade,
Well, the Argonaut and
with the one exception of the Argonaut.
the Argonaut and the Orpheus actually had nothing really wrong with them. But funnily enough, Eperotiki lines. Actually, you're noticing that that's not a real pattern. Eperotiki lines continued on, and was then later. Eperotiki lines in the 90s had a couple of upsets, let's say, but then they merged with another company, kept on going until like '05, and then they all went away because that company went bust. So Eperotiki lines, I wouldn't say they're the Teflon Don of this situation, but they definitely didn't get as much stuck to them as they should have, especially after what happened to the Pallas Athena, which was a French ocean liner turned cruise ship that Costa Cruise Lines, another great name in European cruising, this is their pre-Carnival days too, bought in the 70s, used it up, sold it to Eperotiki, which should give you an idea of exactly how long these ships were in service for. Eperotiki had it for 3 years and it burned to the waterline. Was not able to find out the exact cause. Fortunately, it did this at the dock. I don't remember where this was. I think it might have been in somewhere in either Italy or Greece, but I cannot for the life of me remember. But
so I'm noticing two things here. One is that they have a very ragtag motley crew fleet
yes,
that has to be just an absolute nightmare to maintain because every single ship is going to be different. And not just
wildly
like
so.
a little different. It's wildly different. The other thing that I'm noticing here is that Eperotiki lines seem to be really good at choosing great names for ships because these all slap.
Yeah,
These
are
are great ship
these
names.
are great. Well, everything's great in Greek. All of these names are fucking phenomenal. And they have like so many. If you look on their Wikipedia page, they just owned so many ships. And you have to ask yourself, because, where did they get all these things from? And let's go to the next slide and sort of talk about this for a second. Where did they get all these from? Well, so it's
these didn't just materialize.
Yeah, they got all these because there was this big thing that happened. Well, okay, really going back to the 1900s, two guys from Ohio built this device called an airplane. And in the 1960s, this company called de Havilland built an airplane called the Comet, and they claimed that it was the first jet airliner, and what happened was they fucked it up so bad that Boeing, a company out of America, was able to come in and basically serve the world up on a silver platter to themselves. So, in the 1960s, jet airliners became the dominant form of intercontinental transportation, which is really bad if you are a cruise liner, an ocean liner, I'm sorry, if you're an ocean liner, because suddenly it takes 6 hours to cross the Atlantic instead of 6 days. So all of these ocean liners that were built in the 1950s to replace the ocean liners that had been built pre-World War II and were either sunk or turned into troop transports and then promptly used and abused and put away wet, basically had nowhere to go. And so they all sort of percolated into the secondary market at the same time as a lot of ships that had been built post-World War II for non-ocean liner purposes, like the Jean Laborde, the Oceanos, was not replaced by a jet airliner until the 70s because it had aged out of what Messageries Maritime wanted to do with it. So instead, they just didn't replace it. They just retired it. But that had been built in the 50s to replace ships that had been built either as part of like the post-World War II shipbuilding boom. Because there weren't jet airliners, there wasn't quick, reliable intercontinental transportation. in the 1950s. That was more of a 1960s thing. So you had all these big ships that were still relatively new going up for sale quite quickly, and a couple of them that were still sailing back and forth across the Atlantic, like in one of my favorite National Geographic documentaries, Superliners, Twilight of an Era, which is why I have that one here. And then you've also got all the stuff that was built in the war that survived.
So it sounds to me like, have you ever heard the saying about boats, that a boat is just a hole in the water that you dump money into?
Yeah.
Because it
It's
seems like with the advent of the jet age, these ships were already fairly significant holes that these companies dumped money into. And when jets started regularly making 6-hour trips across the Atlantic, that hole in the water just got gigantic.
yeah,
So
it just
how
wasn't worth
quick,
it.
what kind of, yeah, what kind of timeline are we talking here? Was it a slow start and then picked up rapidly? Did it stay pretty quick or pretty
Essential
consistent across?
in the 1950s, because you could fly like from from New York to Gander to Iceland to Shannon in Ireland and then onwards to the European continent. It was a slow drain. And then the 1960s, the bottom just fell out. Like,
Oh, Jesus.
Twilight of an Era was like from the 1970s, like the early 70s. Superliners, Twilight of an Era. That was like the Queen Elizabeth II in its last years as a transcontinental ship. And
Ooh.
by like the 80s, there was nothing. There was like maybe 2 or 3, down from hundreds. Like, you ever hear about any of these old maritime disasters in the 50s and 40s? Like the Andrea Doria got hit by the Stockholm, right? The Andrea Doria,
Yeah.
USA to Italy, not a thing that happens anymore. The Stockholm, USA to Norway on a liner, and it had competition. So these are not like routes that exist anymore because just like nobody does it. Nobody needs to do it. And so like nowadays, there is exactly one transatlantic ocean liner. It's the Queen Mary II.
I have heard I've talked to exactly one person who actually wanted to take one of these transatlantic trips, and he wasn't doing it, or he wasn't looking to do it because he needed to get to Europe. He was actually just taking the trip one way just so he could say that he did a transatlantic trip on a ship,
That's
and then
exactly
he was
what
going to fly back.
that's exactly what it is. And I'm sorry, I misspoke. This is the Queen Elizabeth I. This is not the QM2. The QM2 replaced the QE1 in the 80s, in like the early 70s, like the late 70s, and the QE1 sailed off to Hong Kong to become part of CY Tung's Asian business empire, and then burned to the waterline in Hong Kong harbor,
Whoa.
and became the setting of a James Bond movie later on. Allegedly, MI6 set up a field office in its corpse. I don't remember which Bond movie it was, but it's neat. But it's yeah, there's Cunard has just been sort of doing it out of reflexive habit, but Cunard became a division. Do you know who owns Cunard now?
I didn't know that Cunard was still around in any way, shape, or form, to be quite frank. So no.
That's who owns the QM2. They are a division of Carnival Cruise Lines.
That makes sense.
And
Carnival Cruise Line seems to be like the Genesee and Wyoming of the ocean.
Actually, just the U.S. railroad system is a great analog for the current state of the cruise line industry. There's like 4 mega companies, and that's it. Everything else is a division of them, or it's a small operator. Like, I think there's like Royal Caribbean, Carnival. What's the other one? There's the third one. Royal Caribbean.
The one that runs like cruises up in the Northwest a lot.
Carnival. No, that's part of Carnival too. No, there's a third one whose name I'm blanking on. I'm going to have to do research live on air because, of course, I can't fucking remember.
Oh, I'm looking too.
cruise line company.
Norwegian?
Yes, Norwegian. Jesus, I should have gotten Norwegian right because I was about to bring up Norwegian because and that's basically it because Norwegian really kicked off the ocean liner as a cruise ship thing because they bought from French Line the gorgeous SS France and turned it into a cruise ship. First mega cruise ship was the SS France, now named the SS Norway. And they did so much fucking work to that thing. They gave it a 5 head eventually because they kept stacking decks on top of it to add more cabins.
Oh my god.
And actually, God, any of you who are longtime watchers of Air Crash Investigation will remember that there was a midair collision in France in the 90s that was caused by this thing, because the Norway sailed back to France to do a season of European cruising, and it caused such a turnout that a little 19-passenger Beechcraft prop liner decided to do a flyover of it in the harbor and got hit by a Cessna that was doing the same thing. It's like
Jesus, come on.
Yeah, it was like Proteus Airlines. I don't remember the flight number, but it's one of the ACI episodes. You're like, really? That happened? And yeah. So, but like, and
you chump fucks.
That's what happened to every single cruise liner is they either went to Greece or they went to Miami. That's it. That's what every ocean liner, depending on where they got sold to. And so, it's just sort of the thing is because they had all the ships and the ships were in relatively good condition. And, the other thing that you can do is that, boats are holes in the water that you pour money into. And let's not forget the acronym bust out another 1,000. But you know what else you can do?
I haven't heard that.
For a really long time, you can just not fix things and it won't get worse for a while. And then eventually it'll either not be an issue or you can just get another boat because nobody else wants them. So they're depreciating assets.
The market's flooded.
The market's flooded. So is the engine room. We should probably get on.
I was about to say that's a bad analogy for this market. Maybe we should make a different one.
The market is saturated like our, but yeah. So basically this is the 1970s that we're getting into, like where the Oceanos was coming from. It was part of this great wave of ships that just had nowhere else to go and ended up all over the place as they started aging out of their first owners or they started getting economically out of their owners thing. And that's also why, like, for a lot of people, ocean liners look like that in your head is because the 1950s design language was the last real time that anyone built an ocean liner. And so nowadays all passenger ships look like either ferries or cruise ships because those are the only things that anybody's making anymore.
Oh my god.
Well, nobody else is making them. Like the only other cruise company that has any real sort of visibility, I'm not going to say because I could be missing something in China that I've never heard of, but like there's Royal Caribbean, there's Norwegian, and there's Carnival. And then the only other thing that you ever hear about, at the very least, is Viking River Cruises. And I believe they're independent. And Viking, if you ever look at their ships, they look like barges because they're just going up and down rivers.
What about Holland America?
Holland America is part of Carnival.
Is it? Oh, Jesus.
It's either Carnival
there's
or
egg
Royal...
on my face.
I got to look that up for a second because I want to make sure it's not... I think Club Med is independent. But yeah, it's a Holland America is a subsidiary of Carnival. I think Club Med is not. I think Club Med is just by themselves. But there's a lot of small cruise lines like this. Like, do not assume that I'm speaking authoritatively. This is every cruise line ever, but there's a lot of small cruise lines that do like luxury tours or specific things, but that's more of a modern thing. You'll always find like 2 guys who own 3 boats incorporated, but on a more macroeconomic scale, there's not a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could there's always going to be some little guy who is still somehow hanging on despite being completely dwarfed by a multinational corporation.
Yeah. And then also, something that we should note, that's all in the 2000s and beyond. We're thoroughly in the 80s and the 90s when everything was fucking stupid. So we're just going to keep on going with this story. So now we get to the MTS Oceanos in Epiro Tiki lines white, blue, and gold. Which
Looks good.
It was owned by Epiro Tiki lines from 1976 to August of 1991. MTS does not stand for anything. It's listed everywhere. As far as I was able to tell, it was internal marketing term for motor twin screw that Epiro Tiki lines used and Epiro Tiki lines used alone. Because I'll be honest with you,
when we were making this deck, I saw that and I was like, bullshit. I've heard of MTS before. That has to be what it stands for. And no, this is right. I checked like 3 different lists that showed you what all those prefixes that you see in front of ship names means. And none of them said that MTS was motor twin screw. So they're bullshitting us right off the bat.
to give you an idea, I was so up against the wall with this one as trying to figure out what it was that I asked ChatGPT and it took 5 minutes to respond.
That's oof.
It went because ChatGPT 5 just came out. It's even smarter than the last one, and it actually went into thinking mode because it couldn't figure out what it was either. It had to cobble together like 3 different sources from online. Well, you know it's bad when like the machine that lies to you instantly doesn't know what it is.
Hang on, I got to think about this lie for a little bit.
It actually, I checked its sources. It appears to be correct. And you can also
Fucking
see
Grok's over here. Like I've been instructed to tell you that
hold
stands for
on.
motor twin screw, but
we'll get to Grok in a couple of minutes.
oh no.
Anyways, if you look at the Oceanos, you can see they also added this structure in the foredeck. That's probably where the cargo hold was, I believe, because you can see in the other pictures there were cranes there. So they've added in more spaces, but generally, Oceano seems to be a pretty functional boat. You know, we're shitting on Epiro Tiki lines a lot, but it seems like if they had maintenance issues, it definitely was more of an ongoing thing into the 80s and 90s as opposed to an all-time thing. Like maybe their fortune started to wane just as the ships got really old and that sort of shit started happening. So, but anyways, by the early 1990s, the Oceanos is getting old. You know, it's not a really big boat in, you know, the terms of things, especially because Sovereign of the Seas, which is the first real cruise ship as we would know it today, had been built in 1987, which was, at the time, the Sovereign of the Seas was the biggest passenger vessel ever built. Nowadays, it's like you versus like the Carnival Mardi Gras, the guy they tell you not to worry about. Like that sort of thing. But for the time, it was massive. The Oceanos was not. But never fear. Epiro Tiki Lines has a brisk wet lease business. They are just sending ships off to left, right, and fucking center because they will send the ships anywhere to anyone who wants to charter them.
So what is a wet lease, Joe?
Wet lease as opposed to a dry lease. So there's 2 different kinds of things in like large commercial vehicle leasing for this. It's usually applied to airliners and ships. A dry lease, which this was not, is basically you get the vehicle. Like a dry lease would be that you are, you know, Buttfuck Shipping Incorporated. You dry lease the Oceanos. You have your own crew come in, your own staff. Everybody comes in and you operate the thing, but you physically do not have the title for the boat. That's it. That's all you get is the boat. A wet lease, on the other hand, is you are Buttfuck Tours Incorporated. You want to charter this boat for a 3-week tour of the scenic dick-sucking islands, and you market the tours yourselves and everything. You sell all the berths, all the staterooms, but Eperotiki Lines provides the boat, provides the crew, provides all the services for it. So you're basically just paying them to come out and run the ship for you while it sails on a route of your choosing. Does that make sense? Did any of those jokes land?
A dry lease is like buying a project house. A wet lease is a turnkey operation.
Yes. It's more like renting a project house, kind of, but yes.
Yeah, we're renting a project house. Yeah, that's more apt. My bad.
But yeah, basically it depends on how much of your operation you want to hand off. Most of the time, wet leases are more common because if you are trying to dry lease something, it means that you have the expertise for it already. So why don't you own the thing? That's usually more if you run into a sudden and unexpected capacity issue, as opposed to, or if you're like in an airline in a country where they don't allow you to have like, where there's massive import regulation. So, Air Somewhereistan may long-term dry lease a bunch of 737s from AirCap or something like that, and they'll paint the planes in their livery, they'll operate them with their own crews that they trained themselves, and they'll maintain them in their facilities, albeit with approval from AirCap, but the planes have an Irish registration, and the thing on the title says AirCap owns it, as opposed to Air Somewhereistan.
Okay.
Please tell me any of these jokes are landing. By the way, you haven't said a damn thing.
No. Okay, there's nothing wrong with them. I don't know. I'm just not in a very chuckly mood right now.
Okay, good. I just needed to know that
it's not you. It's not you, baby. It's me. I promise. It's just me. Okay.
Okay. So anyways, Eperotiki Lines had a brisk wet lease business. They were just sending ships everywhere. So off the Oceanos went to the bad place. The bad place being South Africa. Which I would like to, talking about Grok, do you notice what's different about this flag? Do you notice what's different about this flag?
Off the top of my head, I don't know what the South African flag looks like. So hang on. I'm going to cheat.
This is not the South African flag that we know it today. This is
wait. The whole fucking thing is... Oh, shit. Yeah, that's way different. No, I already know that off the top of my head. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's not that.
This is the apartheid flag.
Ooh.
This is 1991 South Africa. This is when racism was legal. If we go to the next slide, hello.
Oh, crap. Dude, this ad is so fucking bad.
It has to have been in Soldier of Fortune. I don't know where it came from.
There's nowhere else that could have been.
Like,
okay, so right off the bat, I recognize the Confederate flag on the left there.
I have
what is that one on the right?
I have no idea. If I go back one slide, let me see. That's one of the flags in the South African flag. So I assume it's just like pure distilled racism.
It has to.
I don't know what it is. I'm not interested in learning what it is. But for those of you who are looking at this, who aren't looking at this, I have found an ad on the internet that is "Come on home to Africa's South." And the picture, there is a Confederate flag and one of the flags from South Africa with a blonde woman and her friends.
South African flag.
That is the what? I'm sorry?
That's the previous South African flag.
Yeah, what? Oh my God. It's enough.
That doesn't make sense though. Why is it there?
I don't know. But this woman is framed by rifles.
Yeah,
and it is
4 rifles make up the border of this image. They're flintlocks too. Oh my God!
And I don't think they're flintlocks. I think it's one of the early cap rifles, like a Winchester, like a Winchester, maybe, whatever it is. It is offering you to come down and to the one country where the dollar still buys you the great life. Come down and see come down and see the lions, and no matter what you do, play golf or tennis, go hiking or fishing or game spotting, or steep yourself in a history that's not so different from that of the United States. We also had a gold rush and wild frontier towns. Fam, I don't know how to break it to you, but when we made racism illegal, you codified it into law. So, but anyways, if you thought
the bottom right of that ad is a painting,
of
and
something,
I can't quite tell what it is, but it looks like a lot of guys in fancy uniforms on horseback attacking a lot of dudes on foot.
it looks like
And
it's
small enough that I can't tell the races of everybody involved, but I'm pretty sure I know what the race of everybody involved is.
I'm willing to say that's probably the Boer Wars or something, but I don't.
That's probably it.
If you're looking at this ad and you think that this is an effective tourism campaign, you have already self-selected, and you should just go and not come back. Also, this is what speaking of grok, this is Elon Musk's like wank bait right here. It has to be.
This is from the time when he was growing up in South Africa.
Yes, it was.
And I also want to point out that this is not like an ad in the corner of the page.
Like
as indicated by the fact that the scan kind of bled through the reverse side of the page.
Like
this is a full page ad. Come on home to Africa's South.
It's so bad. It's so bad in so many different ways.
Image of the woman up there with a drink and then 4 of her friends behind them is so clearly Aryan coded. None of them have black hair. The closest is the dude on the right with brown hair, but he's wearing like a tuck shirt and a bow tie, which kind of indicates that maybe he's sort of a servant, but maybe he can serve the rich people because he's white, even if he's not Aryan.
It's just the worst.
Everybody else is blonde.
Except for maybe the woman in the hat isn't, but who knows?
Man, you know what color that hair is under there. You already know.
It's so bad. And anyways, just to balance out the psychic damage here, on the other side of this page, we do have the rational world's response to this, which is a trio of posters saying that apartheid is no holiday. Basically, for those of you who might be too young to remember this, South Africa's legalized racism, known as apartheid, was widely disliked by literally everyone who wasn't insane.
Anybody that was the slightest bit empathetic to somebody with a different skin color.
Yeah, basically,
apartheid was bad.
Basically, like, who was the guy? Who was the guy that stood in the doorway of the Little Rock School? What was his name? George McGovern?
Oh, that sounds right, but I don't know off the top of my head.
If you identify with that guy, apartheid was great. If you think that he was an asshole, then... Oh, I gotta look up his fucking name now. Why the fuck do I always have this happen to me? Wait,
Yeah, it was George McGovern.
Yeah, okay. If you thought that George McGovern was someone to look up to, you liked apartheid. If you didn't, then South Africa was embargoed. Nobody went there except for like you could, just nobody wanted you to. Like it got to the point where like South African Airways had to fly almost entirely over the ocean for most of their flights to get anywhere, because like every other country in Africa would not let them overfly, which is the reason why it's not the reason why, but like the one South African Airways flight that burned and crashed in the 80s, it kind of was that far over the ocean because nobody else would give them overfly rights because everyone else hated them. So that's also something that, just as we go through the rest of this episode. Okay. What was that?
I got to correct slightly. I have no reading comprehension. So everybody else did not identify with Governor Orville Faubus.
Oh my God, that was his name. I'm sorry.
North Little Rock High School. So they were like, yeah, no, keep your fucking plane out of here.
Yeah, Orville Faubus, that was his name. But yeah.
Faubus?
But
it could be.
He doesn't deserve to have his name pronounced correctly, but anyways, just also keep that in mind for the rest of this podcast, that most of the people on the Oceanos were white South Africans in the 90s, in the early 90s. So just sort of, any sympathy, just sort of moderate that a small amount, just a little. Nobody dies in this one, but just sort of like, that's so terrible for you.
Well, they really don't have a good time, though.
That's surely the worst thing that happened in South Africa in 1991. Surely. But and the last image in here, you can sort of see this is actually the top image on Wikipedia for apartheid, which is a sign posted on a beach in Durban, which basically says that this beach is for white people only.
But it does have the distinct text on there that says, under Section 37 of the Durban Beach Bylaws, which means that this racism was codified in law.
Oh, it absolutely was. There were actually like multiple different races codified into law, and it would be funny if it wasn't terrible. If you were like,
there was a tier list of races.
There was a tier list, and if you actually were like passing enough, you could get knocked up a tier. Like some people were like, no, I'm not black, I'm Asian, because that got them kicked up a tier in the racism rankings, and so you could get slightly more service, which is again terrible. But this was a nationwide thing in South Africa. It's just codified racism into law. Apartheid literally means apartness. It's like keeping people away from each other.
And this is what Idaho wishes it was to this day.
The certain parts of Coeur d'Alene that have the Nazi camps in them probably drool over this.
I mean, it's why you still see South African flags flying in some of these places.
Yeah.
And it's not the new one.
No, it's not. And
I say new, but that thing is 30 years old. 31 years old.
And remember, this is what Elon Musk not only grew up with, it's probably what he kind of wants to happen, considering we had that whole thing with getting white South Africans to get preferential immigration treatment to the U.S. Moderate your sympathy accordingly as we go through the rest of this episode. But anyways, going on to the next slide, the Oceanos, which was, I need to just remind everyone, had been built in 1952 and was at this point 40-ish years old and had been in service with Eperotiki lines for the past for almost 15 years at this stage, was considered a rundown ship, was one of the most luxurious vessels in the South African touring scene, because nobody went to South Africa, and I mean even the cruise lines. There's a website.
They recognized that they didn't want to cater to a bunch of racist assholes, but these guys decided that they weren't too good for that money.
Well, no. Eperotiki lines did give to everybody, but also the Greek lines didn't organize this themselves. TFC Tours, whose logo you can see at the bottom of this pamphlet page, was a local tour operator who wet leased the Oceanos. This actually happened with a bunch of other European liners throughout that time, usually from sketchier or more lackadaisical companies like Laro Lines, who sent the Achille Laro down to South Africa for a couple of seasons too. Do you know the name the Achille Laro, Zach, by any chance?
I do not. Enlighten me.
The Achille Laro was once hijacked by a bunch of Palestinian militants who publicly executed a Jewish guy in a wheelchair by throwing him overboard from the Achille Laro.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
one of the many reasons why the Palestine versus Israel thing is such a complicated subject is because the PLO in the 70s did so many heinous things. Just so many of them. Like sorting people by Jews and not Jews and only hurting the Jews. Ugh, it was awful. But the Achille Laro went down there for a couple of seasons. Hilariously, there was a ship called the Betsy Ross. that went down to South Africa for
I'm
a
sure she'd
season.
approve of it.
Apparently the Betsy Ross was awful. It like rode terribly and it did not ever come back. Like I found a South African website.
Who owned that one?
I don't know. I assume it was an American company. There was no like government.
I feel like that's just gonna be like some guy in Pittsburgh.
It had to have been, but there was no legal boycott or embargo. It was just a social one, which is why you got like a lot of British acts going down to South Africa and then getting really shit on by all the ones who didn't, because it's like, bro, really? Anyways, yeah, there was actually a website that listed all the ships that came down there in the 80s and 90s before apartheid ended, because they were literally the pioneers of the South African cruise industry. To sort of like give you an idea of how bad it was in terms of like, this is what they had. And so the Oceanos went down for the first time in 1989 and was wildly successful in its cruising.
Because it was not just a complete piece of shit, or what?
Apparently it was very luxurious for the South African trade. I don't know what that means.
I don't know if you included them anywhere. I don't think you included them anywhere later, but we did see ship or photos of the Oceanos when it first premiered as the Jean Laborde.
I did not see
Was that
those.
the right name? Jean Laborde?
Yeah, Jean Laborde.
It was in that link I sent you. It was nice. It looked like, you ever see those houses on Zillow that haven't been touched since the 50s or 60s? The whole ship was like that.
I know you sent me something. I just didn't actually bother to look at it because I was busy or something. Where was it?
Oh my God. I try to contribute to this show. I already know I don't contribute enough. My time is so limited, and I found this for you, and you just
contribute so much.
Brush me off.
Where the fuck is it? Oh wow, that's why it didn't.
So unappreciated.
Oh, this is a different website that looked exactly like the website that I found the pictures of the Jean Laborde on. So I probably clicked it and then did not investigate any further because I was like, "Oh, Zach found the same website."
I already seen that one.
Oh, this is nice. So
that's the downfall of Web 1.0.
Yes. This is
I want you all to know how many Web 1.0 sites we have to scrape through to get some of this information, because it's all that's left.
Web 1.0 is the backbone of facts on the internet. You could make just the most elaborate or like very barely plausible scam website, and if you made it look like a Web 1.0 thing, people would believe you.
Yeah, probably. If the birds aren't real guy didn't do a more modern website, if you went for Web 1.0, it'd probably be like an actual conspiracy theory.
But oh yeah, no, this ship looks great. I will say it probably was it was dated by that point, I'm willing to bet. But
yeah.
So anyways, in 1989 it was wildly successful. It was asked to come back for 1991 by the company TFC Tours. TFC Tours appeared to basically have both a list of short and long haul cruises up and down the South African coast. If you look here at the program of cruise dates, which interestingly, these are all winter cruises because obviously
Hemisphere.
Which I was kind of confused by, because most of the sources I found said that it usually would be during European winter that they get sent down, but who the hell knows? And though then again, if
this would be like getting into European winter. Starts in June, ends in January, and then that would be South African summer.
Yeah, I suppose it was like it was like a 6-month wet lease, I guess. I hadn't actually looked beyond that, because if we didn't, spoiler alert, the ship didn't get beyond August. So I wasn't really looking, but you can see how some of these are just from like Cape Town to Durban, or like in July, Voyage 7 leaves Durban July 4th, sails to Durban on July 6th, and just spends 2 nights at sea. and things like that. But it also does bigger voyages. Like it goes to like Voyage 11 went to Mauritius and Reunion and spent 11 nights at sea. Holy shit. I didn't look at that before. Oh my god. That must have been awful. Holy shit. Have you been on a cruise ever, Zach? Zach? Did I lose you? Oh no.
Oh, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I had to mute and run away for just a moment because my dogs were starting to fight over a toy and it was getting loud. No, I have not been on a cruise. I don't like the idea of being stuck in a petri dish in the middle of nowhere on uh, I don't like the whole cruise ship atmosphere. I don't like the way that workers are generally treated on there. I haven't been on one and I don't really have a desire to be on one. But even I have done short trips on fishing boats, and even that gets miserable after a couple hours.
Yeah,
I can't imagine 11 nights at sea.
I went on a cruise once. I went on the Carnival Mardi Gras, which is one of the biggest ships they have currently. It is only so big. Your room is not very big. The room is very not big. There's only
Oh yeah,
so
if
many,
you don't pay out the ass, you're in a
There's-
shoebox.
there's only so many places to eat. There's only so many things to do. The ship had a fucking roller coaster on it. But there's only
Look,
it's gotten weird, okay? It's gotten weird in the world of cruising, but anyways, there's only so many things to do. There's only so many things to do, like drink and gamble.
yeah, that sounds like a nightmare to me.
And after a while it wears on you. I cannot imagine 11 days. The food better have been phenomenal. Carnival's food was ass. And it was just like the best place on there was the Shaquille O'Neal themed fried chicken sandwich restaurant.
The fuck is that?
Shaq has a fried chicken sandwich chain, I guess. He
Does
also
he know?
was Yes, he does. He actually had a lot of branding on the ship because he was also their chief fun officer and was in all of the
Oh my
pre-voyage
God.
TV programs that they had playing on a loop in the room. And then also there was a Guy Fieri restaurant that did smash burgers that was decent. Emerald had a restaurant as well. That one you had to pay for. That was arguably the best food on the entire ship.
You clipped out. Who was that last one?
Emerald.
Oh.
Emerald had a pay restaurant on the ship, and that was arguably the best one on the boat. But oh my god, the food better be good, otherwise that would be just fucking torture. But anyways, during that 11-day cruise, this is gonna go long, I can feel it, as opposed to all of our other ones which go short. In any event, the Oceanos, during its July cruises, went back home to Reunion Island and managed to scrape bottom leaving. I don't know how they managed that, and I don't know what damage it did, but it didn't seem to affect the rest of the July cruise schedule at all.
It's one of those things that you would think is fairly well established that if you don't want to hit something, don't put your ship over here.
Especially if the boat has...
If you have a draft more than X number of feet deep, you can't go this route. You have to go this other route instead.
Yeah, and especially when you consider that the Oceanos went to Reunion Island every month as the Jean Laborde. But whatever. You know, surely that doesn't mean anything about the captain.
It looks like it goes to La Reunion not every month here, but most months.
Yeah. Well, surely that doesn't
They should
mean
fucking
anything.
know this.
Surely that doesn't mean anything about the captain's skills or anything, right?
It doesn't demonstrate anything about his character.
Yeah, but in any event, July 28th, Oceanos left Durban for Cape Town. This section of the coast off of South Africa is called the Wild Coast. It is not called that because there are wild animals there. It is called that because the seas are fucking awful all the time. And it did not disappoint this time The ship was tossed back and forth for the entire voyage, there and back.
God.
It was awful, and it got worse on the 1st of August. So again, something you could do. I don't know the exact specific about this, but on the 1st and the 2nd, Winston Saad, who I believe is a furniture magnate in South Africa, or was. I believe he's dead, but there's a company with his name that is still around in South Africa. He chartered the entire
That makes sense.
ship.
Probably a legacy company.
Yeah, he chartered the entire ship for his son's wedding off of East London, which is a city in between Cape Town and Durban. Things went really bad because of the weather. Like, they were getting thrown around and everything was going everywhere. They really had to pull into port because it was that bad, and the bride went, no, I want to be married out at sea. And so they went back out, and it was so bad that, like, they hired an organist to play for this, because the band on the boat does not usually include, like, an organ or anything like that. The band leader had to hold a towel over the organist's face so that she could play while vomiting.
Jesus.
Like it was that heavy of sea. But the marriage...
Wow.
What?
How committed do you have to be to being married out at sea to go through that?
I don't know.
That was a bride. That's a bridezilla if I've ever seen one.
I mean, caring about the suffering of others really doesn't matter when you're a rich South African. It can't be.
Apparently.
Apparently, we've seen
Demonstrated
how Elon,
again.
We've seen how Elon treats his employees, but in any event, no idea exactly how that was handled. Who did the chartering from who? Maybe it was a subcharter for TFC. Doesn't matter. In any event, the Oceanos left East London for a one-day sail to Durban, which I assume would have been the end of voyage VO14, and then would have then turned around and gone for VO15, which was a 14-day cruise to Madagascar and Mauritius. Holy shit. That's a long one.
Jesus, I should not have done that RFK impression. My throat is so irritated.
Oh,
Give me a second.
Okay. So while Zach recovered,
I just tried to talk, and for some reason my voice went, no, we're still mad about that.
Jesus, man, I'm sorry. You did not have to do that on my side.
Oh, that was worth it. I fucking hate that guy.
But, my God.
But anyway, yes, that is a ridiculously long trip.
Yeah. Also, fun fact about Mauritius. It's one of the only places in Africa where you can go and not feel bad about the natives or anything like that, because Mauritius was entirely uninhabited until it was colonized.
Oh, cool. So we can hate them all systematically? This won't be problematic.
No, it's just completely hatred-free. It was colonized, I think, by the British, so just usual British self-hatred.
Oh.
It's apparently...
So the Brits were at it again.
It's apparently really nice. I want to go there on vacation. It's just that it's 17 hours to get there, and they have dengue fever because of the mosquitoes and everything. I don't want to get dengue fever. I really don't.
Any fever that has a specific name is not worth fucking with.
Oh, dengue fever is one of those great things where you get it from a mosquito, and if you get it a second time, you die.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
So you can only go there once. And anywhere else that has dengue fever.
Which is anywhere in the tropics.
Jesus Christ.
My aunt got it, and she's like, we can't go to the Caribbean anymore. It's fucking everywhere.
Mosquito tell you what to do.
Oh my God. But Jesus. Anyways, so they left for the one-day sail to Durban. much like the 3-hour tour on the SS Minnow. We now get to a specific date, the worst kind of date at all. So they left on, God, did I say July 3rd? I mean August 3rd. They set sail late. I say allegedly here due to a bomb threat because the first-hand accounts from the crew on the entertainment staff make no mention of this. But allegedly the ship left late due to a bomb threat. This has been repeated enough times that it might as well be true. In any event, it really had no impact on proceedings. Something
Repeat a
more
lie so much that you manifest a historical event into truth.
Yeah, it'd be like Wikipedia be like that sometimes, and television journalism in general. This is something that I found out while doing research for this. Apparently, like, the ship's band and a lot of the like entertainment staff had been up until 6 that morning dealing with the wedding party, and
dealing with the wedding. What does that mean? We're like, you trying to drag all the drunkards off the boat?
The party went till 6 a.m.
This wedding party, everybody involved with setting that up can go fuck themselves.
They played
ridiculous.
They played in like 1-hour shifts because they were so exhausted. Like one band would go on and then another one that had been hired specifically for the wedding. Like, they went in shifts. Meanwhile, the organist is projectile vomiting into a towel while playing blind. Oh my God.
Oh.
Anyways, lead singer Moss Hills just didn't sleep because he had to prep for the sail away party. And he also like went out into East London and like bought supplies for the crew. He did like the crew shopping expedition. Anyways, the sail away party, the seas were so bad the sail away party had to be indoors. Which is actually, this is what it's a picture of. You'll notice that everybody is on the ground leaning in one direction. That is because
they're either on the ground or on their way to the ground.
Or in like a pastel pink chair. I can see those. I thought they were like, because you couldn't stand up. Like dinner was getting thrown back and forth in the dining room when people went to eat. Like it was properly bad.
Puts a whole new meaning to tossing your salad.
I was gonna make that joke, but I couldn't figure out how to work it in. I'm glad you did.
Hey.
Moss Hill's wife Tracy, who was the bass player in the band, reported that the porthole in her room was continuously seeping water from the wave hits, which is note because the porthole usually seeps water, but not continuously.
All right.
So, anyways, at around 9 p.m., we now have a specific time, and it is in South African Standard Time. A loud bang shook the ship, objects were thrown across rooms, and then the power went out. And I would like to just sort of specify, Tracy Hills claims that several heavy steel footlockers were thrown across her crew cabin, but there is allegedly video from the... there's video from inside the Oceanos that shows there wasn't at least that much of a bang in the passenger decks, so I'm not certain exactly what happened there. So if we fade into the next,
I don't know. If you're entertainers are probably in like the lower decks.
Yeah.
Was Tracy maybe right by the point that got hit?
It could be. I'm willing to believe that. Interestingly enough, there does not seem to be a 100% confirmed reason why the Oceanos sank, but I've done enough research that this video seems to provide as detailed of a description as anything else. There's no sound, so don't worry about that. Basically, the ship's sea chest, which is what takes in water from the outside for like equipment cooling purposes and things like that, basically got walloped so hard that it started uncontrollably letting water in. And you can see that vent on the bottom of the ship is the sea chest. At the same time, there was some form of exhaust or sewage line that went through a bulkhead in the engine room.
That's weird. Oh,
And so the sea chest starts letting in water uncontrollably. This immediately
and not
floods.
into the pipe it's attached to.
No, this starts flooding the engine room. And then the pipe that was in the sewage pipe that was that was being repaired hadn't been fixed yet. So there was just a hole through a bulkhead, and it either started going into the next compartment, or it went into the sewage tank and then started going up through the drains of the showers and toilets into staterooms and stuff like that.
Oh God.
I don't have any
that has to be so nasty.
I don't have any confirmation on that as to whether or not that is what happened. All that we do know for certain is that water very quickly started coming in. The Oceanos was without power and was basically adrift in extremely heavy seas with a shitload of water free surface affecting in every room that it was in, which is bad. The ship started to list. By the time it sank, it would eventually reach a 45-degree list, which is, as far as humans are concerned,
that's
vertical.
That's bad.
And soon we have to talk about some Greek dipshit first. This is Captain Yanis Avranis. He is a 20-year seaman. I don't know how long he worked with Eperotiki Lines, but he was the captain.
Seaman.
Yep. He was the captain of the Oceanos, and he discovers that the ship is sinking, panics, completely locks up due to panic, orders the crew to abandon ship. Fuck them passengers. Anyways, continuing on to the next slide.
Okay.
But no, that's Yanis Avranis is a dipshit who needs to be shamed. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information specifically on what he was doing. It appears that he just sort of was told the ship was sinking and doesn't really do anything after that except run away. Like, he locks up for a little bit.
That dude just goes, adios, motherfuckers, and dips.
He does, as does the rest of the crew, which is why I was saying we should blame the Greeks for this, because the crew is basically discovers that the ship is sinking, and in a way that they apparently cannot fix. Again, no idea if they actually tried, but they made the decision that they needed to leave the ship. Keep in mind, they are on the wild coast of South Africa. It's a pitching gale. It also is like 9 p.m., so it's dark outside. Their decision is to leave. Now, notably, that decision is a couple of things need to be said about that. First of all, they want to leave, but they realize that if they leave, they'll lose all their stuff. So naturally, they have to leave with their stuff, right? But that's not exactly good emergency etiquette, because leaving with your stuff means that there's not enough room in the lifeboats for, like, passengers and things like that. Great solution to that. Don't tell anyone. Fuck them passengers. Leave them for themselves. Every man for himself. You and all of your buddies on the staff run into your cabins, throw everything into your suitcases, throw the suitcases into the lifeboats, and cast the fuck off. And that is exactly what they did. Moss Hills, who at this point was getting kind of concerned, and we have a video in the next slide as well, or a couple slides away, that sort of shows what he found out. He did at one point encounter a member of the ship's mechanical staff and has video of this guy saying that there's no problem, or like no water, and then he goes down a couple of flights of stairs and there's like the boat's flooding. So they were actively lying to the passengers and the the non-essential crew. Was, Moss Hills and most of the entertainment staff were like African nationals, like not South African, but like I think they're like Tanzanian or English or something else. So they were probably hired by TFC Tours as opposed to the Greek staff, the Greek crew who came with the Oceanos under the wet lease agreement. So all the Greeks basically packed up and left. Anybody who had Eperotiki lines on their pay stub bounced. Just like, get me the fuck out of here. And I'm going to just play this video, which it's only going to play for a couple of seconds, but and of course, because none of the videos, YouTube search is fucked now, so you can only find what they want you to find. This is from a Spike TV video, which is why there's going to be musical stings and a dramatic narrator.
Survived. No thanks to the captain who left them for dead.
When I order abandon the ship, doesn't matter what time I leave. Abandon is for everybody. If some people like to stay, they can stay.
If some people like to stay, they can stay. Like negative Greek stereotype.
Like anybody's gonna choose. Holy shit.
Negative Greek stereotype over here just leaves everybody for dead and bounces, as does the crew under him. So
I now choose to believe that every negative Greek stereotype exists because of this guy. Because god damn, he just showed so many all at once.
Yeah, right. It's just like there's a reason why this sinking is so well known compared to anything else that happened, is because not only did everybody survive, but the crew left. What the captain goes down with the ship is not something that translates well into Greek, I assume. So, like how? Well, let me try and do a Greek impression now. I put into the Google Translate, this English phrase, captain goes down with ship, and it tells me I have translation error and to contact service administrator. I do not know what this means, but I will leave. It does not matter. My ship I have to set sail soon. That's probably what it was going through his head if he had Google.
I hate to tell you, but that kind of slipped Italian there.
I've probably... Don't you dare tell me that Italians wouldn't do this too. Actually, no. The Italian Navy had to, in World War II, order their captains not to go down with their ships because too many of them were dying.
Yep.
I forget that. The Italian guys were so in love with their ships that they wouldn't leave them. They're like, no, Giorgio.
Well, you had military pride with that.
Yeah.
Would they stay on with a like a glorified Ro-Ro?
That's a great question that someone should answer for us in the comments, or email us at what the fuck is our email address?
Bitch, I wrote it down last time so that I could
Whatever
just
our
look
email,
at it, and I didn't do it for this one.
Throw your email into
Somehow
the internet and it'll find us.
Die on your way to work. SYDDOYWTW@gmail.com.
Yes, do that.
I have to
Do that.
Write out my own email address because I'm basically a child and can't choose good email addresses.
But yeah, anyway, so
I got excited and just made it, okay?
Anyways, the crew left the ship, or the crew was leaving the ship. Nobody stopped them. They just all sort of left. So anyways, we go on to the next slide here, which again, this is another video. This is actually an episode of Dateline. So you'll get Keith Morrison's narration here for a bit. This is just showing like what was sort of going on, because I cannot for the life of me find any raw non-news footage from anywhere. So if you'll bear with me for just like a couple of minutes, we can sort of watch this. So I'm going to hit play now.
Around 10 p.m., Moss ran up to the bridge where he heard the startling news. The Oceanos had lost power in the engines, the captain said, and everybody would probably have to abandon ship.
Yeah, probably have to abandon ship.
Are we sinking? No, we're definitely not sinking. We're just going to do it as a precaution.
On the wild coast.
And I was thinking, well, it's the middle of the night in a very bad storm. Okay, fine. I mean, he's the captain. I'm a guitarist. What do I know?
Well, they waited for further instructions from the captain. Cruise director Lorraine Betts, she's the one in the green windbreaker, had the entertainers assemble all the passengers in the lounge and hand out life jackets. And then they waited. And waited.
I kept expecting something to happen. Maybe an officer in white will stride into the room and take charge and say, right, this is what's happening. But nothing happened.
Moss, who doubled as the crew's videographer, wanted to know what was going on. His camera was with him. as he went below to find out.
As I was coming down the stairs, I could hear water.
There in a stairwell, 5 floors down. The unthinkable.
I'm right down below now. There's water everywhere. It looks like it's flowing in reasonably fast, but it's sloshing about from side to side.
I literally could not believe it. I now know we're in deep, deep trouble.
So I guess we're going down.
Why they were flooding, he did not know, but it was obvious. Sooner or later, this ship would sink.
I went to my cabin. I shut the door, and my legs started shaking. I've been in some situations, but I knew this was real. I knew it.
And then Lorraine got hold of herself, and she says, ran back up to see the captain.
I asked the captain a few times, how close are we to the shore? Here's the radar, can you show me? And nothing was coming from him.
He just shut down.
He shut down.
It was, give or take, 11 p.m. Lorraine called together her staff, including magician Julian Butler, told them to quietly start moving women and children toward the ship's 8 lifeboats. But to their surprise, some of the boats had already been commandeered by the ship's crew.
So yeah, that is that's sort of the atmosphere on board the Oceanos at that point.
Oh.
Which is that everybody knows the boat is sinking, and then, hey, these guys are running away with suitcases.
Gaslight the cruise experience.
Yeah, basically. And so, we've got, if we go to the next slide, we've got these pictures of what was on the boat. Because you've got to remember, it was a tourist cruise, so everybody had cameras. So there are pictures galore of inside the boat. And again, just moderate your expectations. Not only did everybody live, but they are all South Africans. So I actually was very surprised. In one of the pictures I didn't put in, there was a guy with dark skin. And I was like, why are you on this ship? And it didn't, I should have just put it in, but,
yes.
I should have put in, but I already had like 4 images of people just huddling in the lounge. It didn't feel like it was going to help at all.
Everybody hanging out in this lounge that's supposed to be all airy and cheery and fun filled, but every single one of them has life vests on. That's a terrifying image, and they're all just kind of chilling.
Yeah, they're all chilling. The band is playing.
I can't tell. There's in that image in the top left, there is a lady in a white top, and it looks like maybe a red skirt or red pants or something. She has her hand up to her mouth. I wonder if she's just chilling out and smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, she could be. I mean, people were. I don't think they banned smoking indoors at that point. They probably could be.
In South Africa? God, no. They didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I especially.
This is what, 1994?
1991.
91. Damn it. That's right. Because 4 months before I was born. That's where I got the 4.
Yeah. It's actually, I was thinking, when talking about the other ships from Eperotiki lines, the Pallas Athena was bought from Costa Cruise Lines in 1991. I wonder why. I wonder what could have made them suddenly need a large ocean-going cruise ship in 1991, suddenly. Do you think it's that they were missing one?
No, it can't be. They I'm sure they had better business plans. They were doing well. They were thriving. They were growing.
Yeah. But so in all these pictures, I do love the expression of the guy holding the megaphone, like just mugging for the camera out of instinct.
What? That guy looks like he could be your uncle at any family gathering, just being goofy on camera, and he's literally on a sinking ship. As a matter of fact, he's the only one in any of these images that's not wearing a life vest.
He might be part of the crew. A lot of the remaining staff, so like the hotel staff of the Oceanos, like Moss Hills, the lead guitarist, has a website called oceanosinking.com. It's where all these images came from, that goes into it more. He, like, basically most of the people who weren't on like the mechanical and operations staff, like the cruise team, like the TFC tours team, the entertainment staff, a lot of like the onboard shop attendants and things like that really did step up into the power vacuum created by there not being a crew anymore, and sort of basically manned the evacuation, which is the real reason why this is such a notable thing. So we'll talk about them in just a second, but I do want to point out that somebody actually went out and snapped a photo of the lifeboats being lowered. I don't know when this picture was taken in the evacuation, but this is either the crew cowardly taking the only enclosed lifeboat, because most of them were open, I think, for themselves, or this is during the evacuation of the passengers, and I'm not certain which. But I think most of the Oceanos' lifeboats were open, which in 1991, oh my God, could you imagine willingly doing that? Jesus fuck.
No.
But so anyways, now we get to our heroes, really. So if you talk about the Oceanos, these names will come up more than anything. So we've got Moss and Tracy Hills, who were guitar players and husband and wife. They were employed, I believe, by TFC Tours for entertainment on the cruise. Lorraine Betts, the lead charter representative for TFC, and then two magicians, Julian Butler and Robin Boltman. These are the main people who ensured that anybody lived on the Oceanos. So
that's pretty rad.
Yeah, like Lorraine Betts you saw in the Dateline clip. Moss Hills was in there as well. A lot of the stuff that I'm going off of for like timeline wise actually is from Tracy Hills. She has a full account on the Oceanos sinking website, like hour by hour, what was happening. That sort of gives more information as to what occurred. But and then we've got Julian Butler and Robin Boltman. They kept people in good spirits, and then as the evacuation and emergency response started kicking into high gear, they were both up on the bridge or later interfacing with like the South African Navy to sort of organize from a radio perspective. So massive props to these people, along with everybody else who stayed to help instead of running like a coward. So
do you think either one of the comedians just practiced some really dry sarcasm?
Apparently they
just worked on their delivery throughout this whole thing.
Apparently they were doing whatever they could to keep the crowds calm. There's a great anecdote at one point of them just singing anything they could think of, and American Pie came into the rotation, which does feature the line, "This'll be the day that I die." And they had to segue into a different song the line before.
Oh, realizing that halfway through the song, like halfway into the chorus, maybe.
Basically. And,
oh my God. I could also see one of these guys just kind of like being a smartass and some random passengers like, "Are we going to be okay?" And they just go, "No, my shoes are going to be ruined. They're Italian leather and they're soaked."
Look, Julian Butler was English, so I can only imagine that he was trying all of his British sarcasm on the South Africans. This is
driest of humor. The only dry thing on this ship.
Yeah, this is literally the only time that we can give props to people who went to South Africa during the boycott is these guys.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
You know, obviously we do not know their personal circumstances, how they ended up there, but they at least stepped up to the plate when it was necessary.
They stepped up to the plate when it was left wide open by the captain's absence.
Yeah, by the absence of anybody else. Apparently Moss Hills... Okay, let me rephrase that. In Moss Hills' retelling of this, he went up to the bridge and found it abandoned, which I believe may mean that Lorraine, because we saw that Lorraine said that the captain was still on the bridge. I'm taking it to mean that maybe Lorraine went back down and then Moss went up independently. He found the bridge empty.
Oh.
And he made the first Mayday call, allegedly. And apparently had to say to... Like, they asked him what his rank was, because the South African Coast Guard or whoever called him and was like, "What rank?" He was like, "I'm the guitarist." Which, I don't know. I'm assuming that's true. Like, a lot of these have not been
Did you say you're a sergeant? No, sir. Guitarist.
And they allegedly asked him, well, where's the captain? He's like, he's left. So
gone. Poof. Vamoose.
Yeah. No idea. Like, despite this being a fairly well documented event, the down to the nuts and bolts specifics of who was where and when are not entirely clear, because there's also like accounts of running into Captain Avranus like smoking in like a blind panic on the deck at one point. I assume that was before the evacuation started, because Captain Avranus left very early. And so, like, this is like Francisco Scatino on the Costa Concordia levels of leaving the ship immediately and with no intention of coming back.
God.
Which actually, there we go. That's the Italians doing that too. I knew there was a reason why I was making that joke. But that could also be saying things about working for Carnival Cruise Lines.
Yeah.
So
if I was captain, I wouldn't stay on a Carnival cruise, even if it wasn't sinking.
You know what's really funny? So on the Carnival cruise ship, they did their fucking damnedest to hide where the lifeboats were. It was amazing. Like, the only places you could see them out the windows was the casino and the gym, because that was the deck that didn't have a lot of windows on it. Your muster point was like one of the restaurants or the theater or something. It was like, oh my, okay, so to give you an idea, on that cruise ship, my muster point was the Chinese Mexican fusion restaurant called Chibang. That was the muster point. That was nowhere near where the boats were. That was where they handed out the life jackets. So, because they weren't in the rooms.
And then you had to walk to wherever you accessed to.
Yeah, and the
lifeboats.
The life jackets weren't in the room. Chibang wasn't even on my deck. Like, it was. They also just like do not show you how to use a life jacket unless you ask them. Like, you just have to scan your room key to show that you went there. It's very like just ticket punching, which is great, because if you go into the hallways where the rooms are, it's so narrow. People are going to die in there. There's so many people with like disabilities and mobility scooters and stuff like that. That
Jesus.
You can rent the mobility scooters, which we did because my mom tore her ACL right before we went on this, so she was on a mobility scooter. You can't get the scooter into the room because the doorway is too narrow. So you can either jam the thing into the room kind of sideways, and thus block your exit, or you leave it out in the hallway and snake the charging cable through the door. These are both great for evacuation purposes, aren't they?
So we're going to touch on in the what we learned section. We're gonna touch on lifeboats again very, very briefly, but everything is pointing to the fact, or I guess the idea, that lifeboats are like an evil thing, and you can't acknowledge that they're there. You certainly can't have enough. You can't have them easily accessible. What?
It must be that they scare the passengers or spoil the view. I maintain firmly that if a Carnival cruise
the view
liner,
I could get.
If one of these massive cruise liners ever sinks, thousands of people will die. Because they're like,
I don't doubt it.
They do not adequately prepare you for how to evacuate the ship in the event of an emergency. Like, I have no doubt that the Oceanos actually did a lifeboat drill. No lifeboat drill was performed on the Carnival Mardi Gras. You went in, scanned your key card, and left. If there was an actual emergency, people would be dead. Especially because, like, if it happened at night, half the people on board are drunk and at the other end of the boat. There's no way out. They do not. It's not an easy to navigate ship until you're on it for a couple of days.
So, when's Oceanos 2.0?
Really, whenever one of the Carnival ships gets old, one of these big ones, one of like these Symphony of the Seas ones that are just like enormous, gets a little bit up there. Maybe if there's like an economic downturn in the 2030s, like mid 2030s. The boats will be about 15, 20 years old. I can see something happening then. It's really going to depend on what happens. Like, I'm thinking more like a collision or something, where it's like, no matter how much due diligence you do, you can't change the fact that the Aramco fuck off just loses steering control and smashes into you.
Or some dipshit accidentally recreates the USS Cole incident and just refuses to give way and runs his boat into the side of one of these things and punches a hole in it.
The USS Cole was an explosion, I thought. Was a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was an explosion, but I'm sure you could get equal damage if you're arrogant enough to not slow down for a cruise ship.
Well, I was actually going to say, we have been seeing a noted increase in U.S. Navy ships bumbling their way in front of other boats. Could you imagine the Symphony of the Seas getting run over by the USS Abraham Lincoln?
That is what we call a PR nightmare.
That is
for everybody involved.
That is what we call a black swan event, and we should not speak it into the world. But anyways, going back to the worst day in these white South Africans' lives, we need to go on to the next slide, because otherwise we'll never be done here. So as I already said, in the Lorraine Betts discovered the captain was essentially useless. The entertainment staff radioed a mayday. They sung songs. At one point, Moss Hills was being used as a human bridge to evacuate people into the lifeboats. He also just happened to go into the captain's cabin and freed his dog and pet canary, which I guess they evacuated his dog. The canary was left to fly away because they were only like 5 miles offshore. I should point this out. This isn't like, we're 300 miles out to sea. Nobody can help us. Like if it was dead,
I fucking hate this guy for leaving his dog.
He fucking asshole. But
this captain keeps giving me more reasons to hate him.
He left his canary too in the cage, so the bird couldn't fly away. But
you're right. I shouldn't gloss over that. This guy's a total tool.
Oh, absolutely.
But Moss Hills was the better human being here.
Yes. And then another thing, which is that basically between the Oceanos' crew evacuating with like 2 of the lifeboats, which were not filled, and then the boats on the opposite side of the ship were not able to be lowered after a point because the ship had like a 30-degree list at this stage. 225 people were left on the Oceanos. That means about 250 some odd evacuated by lifeboats. So now we have to figure out how the fuck are we getting these people off the boat. Now, I'm going to go to the next slide, and you all need to imagine this song in your head because I can't play it because it's copyrighted music. Just imagine the Airwolf theme in your head for me, would you?
Hell yeah, let's go.
Because this is one of the greatest helicopter rescues in history. Okay? 225 people on board the Oceanos. The South African Air Force, otherwise known as Racist Airways, is out there with a fleet of 16 Super Pumas who and I believe like 9 of them actually performed rescue duties, winching people off the deck of the Oceanos, and I'm not sure whether they shuttled them to shore or to several other boats that had responded to the Mayday call and issued that and helped evacuate that way. But Ross, so as I said earlier, Robin manned the radio. Julian was coordinating with the South African Navy from a small boat that had been launched because I guess the Oceanos had a Zodiac on board, maybe for for shore excursions or something.
Okay,
it's like a small rigid-hulled inflatable boat. But for anyone who doesn't know what a
just
Zodiac,
one,
I guess they had it, and a South African Navy diver had been dropped on board, so they pushed that thing overboard and got on it and started coordinating with the South African Navy. The Air Force was coming in with their Super Pumas, and then meanwhile on deck, Moss, Tracy, and Lorraine were organizing the main evacuation. You can actually see Moss tied to a rope at about a 40-degree angle, because the ship is listing that much.
Looking like an absolute badass, skipping down the deck using the rope to hold him upright, basically.
He's tied to it because the ship is completely is like rocking back and forth heavily. I believe this photo in the middle is Tracy, but I'm not certain. Maybe she took it, but this is the level of list that we're dealing with here. It's almost,
whoever that is just chilling out right there.
Just hanging
unreasonably
on.
calm.
At a certain point, you can't do this anymore. And then, of course, we've got the top image, which is just so fucking cool. The evacuation took all night. So they were airlifting people in the daylight, in the first light of day on the 4th.
Oh, yeah. This is like, top right photo is like sunrise.
Yeah. So just
a little after sunrise.
So just people are getting winched off 2 at a time. They didn't get to bring their belongings with them. Sad face. You know, that's only reserved for the crew. And then you can see a photo of some of the South African Super Pumas in the bottom photo. But this is basically, like, it's hard to do, like, this is a blow-by-blow, because it's, at the end of the day, it just boils down to everyone lived. There was not one fatality from the Oceanos. They even saved the dog. The canary presumably flew away. I don't know what happened.
Oh, well, I mean, at the very least, the canary didn't die on the ship.
Yeah, the canary
better outcome nonetheless.
The canary flew away and was promptly eaten by a much larger bird. But who can say?
An albatross 10 times its size swooped in.
But that's what you get for being owned by a Greek. That's the last time someone said. The last time someone said that, it was in Latin. Because
what?
I'm sorry, I was just possessed by a Roman slave trader for a second. Excuse me. We're gonna just...
We're so canceled.
This is the racist episode. No, it's not. No, it's not. We have to do the Alex Jones voice to be racist. Don't do it.
No, nope. But, I've already torn up my throat enough tonight.
But
we'll get Alex Jones another day.
But anyways, the evacuation proceeded with no issues whatsoever. Moss and Tracy Hills were the last people evacuated. They were on the same 2-person sling up to the helicopter. I just want to make sure that everybody's clear with this. Moss Hills has not slept. Moss Hills has been awake for 2 days.
Well over a day at this point. 2 days, holy shit.
He woke up because he was dealing with the wedding party from the night.
The wedding day.
He woke up for the wedding, stayed up the entire night, and presumably didn't sleep that long because he was doing entertainer duties the night before, and then stayed up the entirety of the 3rd, doing all that, and then the ship started fucking sinking. This is like Bruce Willis. This is like John McClane in Die Hard 3. Like you just have to remember every once in a while that he's doing this that like everything is happening to him and he just wants to die. Like,
just wants to lay down and take a nap.
They had to put him on an IV.
No, he's been thrust into this.
They put him on an IV. There's a picture on the website that someone took of him in the South African like Navy base, wherever they drop these people off. He is in bed, tucked into a cot with an IV drip in him because he is like fucking exhausted. Like,
yeah, I'll bet he was exhausted, dehydrated.
What do you want to bet?
Stressed out.
What do you want to bet that he was like, no, I won't have a cup of coffee right now because I can just go to bed in a little bit. And then the lights go out and the girl in the coffee shop's like, no, we don't have any left. Sorry.
Nope, can't make any now.
Just doing this in a state of perpetual exhaustion. You know, the fatigue. We need to put an asterisk with the fatigue episode. Moss Hills is an outlier and should not be counted.
absolutely like the exception to the rule.
This man organized
Although,
a 500-person
early
maritime
90s.
Early 90s.
Early
what?
90s. I'll bet you there was some coke floating around somewhere.
You'd think they'd mention it at that point. I think he just sucked it up and went.
God.
If he didn't mention this, you'd think it's South Africa in the 90s. You'd think they would just be like, "Oh yeah, I did some coke," and then went with it. But no.
You know what? Fair point. Fair point.
Because
dude, if Moss Hill's raw dogged this whole thing, I'm exhausted just from the idea of it.
Just raw dogging this whole thing, 40 hours, no sleep. You know, just like the helicopter turns into the Hat Man, and you're like, I don't care at this point. Just kill me.
Did he mention how long he slept once he was able to sleep?
No, I
feel like at that point it wouldn't be measured in hours; it would be measured in days.
It's one of those things where just sleep until you wake up, basically. But he
yeah. Don't wake me up to check my vitals. You can just do what you got to do.
They woke him up so that they could sing "He's a Jolly Good Fellow" to him, because everybody on the fucking wherever they brought everyone, it was all to the same place. So they were like cheering him because everybody on the Oceanos knew that he was the reason why they had lived.
All right, you all are welcome. Now fuck off and let me go back to sleep.
Let me go back to bed. God, just could not imagine that. I don't want to have to ever deal with that. But anyways, if we go on to the next slide, this is pretty much it. This is a 7-minute long video of the Oceanos sinking. We're not going to watch all of it. I'm just going to very briefly sort of like slide through it just so we can see what it is. Fun fact, the ship is longer than the ocean is deep at this point. So it actually hit bottom and was still above water and then went under. But you can sort of see just how it's like the level of list it was at before, like this, and then it just starts going down further and further. I'll fast forward a bit, to like a minute 39, and it's just water. It's taken on water at this point. We're just sort of waiting for the ocean to consume it. Click ahead.
That is so fast.
Yeah, click ahead to like 246, and it's just intruding. It's just continuously coming in, but at this stage, there's not a whole lot that nobody has to do anything because everyone got off. Imagine this in a different universe where Moss Hill's, they didn't hire him. And just there's 500...
How long after the evacuation of Moss and Tracy did it go under? Do you know?
I think a couple hours, maybe. Like I think it's like
okay.
I don't know off of the top of my head, but
it definitely does look a lot brighter in the day.
Yeah, I think this is
like several hours later,
closer to noon or something. Like, thank God this was a slow disaster. Like this was Andrea Doria slow, not Lusitania, where the Lusitania sank in like 25 minutes, as opposed to the Andrea Doria, which took like all night. So you can just sort of see, and if we scroll, hey, the swimming pool still has water in it, and it always will. That's some French engineering.
It's the most efficient swimming pool.
Yeah. You've just got to remember, the swimming pool in the Titanic is always full of water and never drained.
It's always ready.
And yeah, the ocean is crashing over it. Skip forward some more to like 5 minutes, and now it's going down by the head.
Ooh, I'm with you. Yeah.
It's going down, and this is like, now we're getting the skip forward some more, and it's like just going, and
like right there at the 6-minute mark, you could actively watch the angle of the ship change in just a couple seconds.
Yeah, that's called it.
That is spooky.
That is called the ship has lost its reserve buoyancy. Basically, at this point, there is more water in the ship than there is air, and so now it's just getting pulled down by gravity. So I
hate this.
I think at this point the ship is actively standing on its bow on the bottom of the ocean. And all
it definitely
that
seems to have slowed down just
Yeah.
a bit.
that dust on it is that dust billowing off it is from all the air getting forced out of the ship by the water.
Yeah, geysering.
And then I'm not 100% certain, like, as it sinks, whether it's falling over or if it's like the bow is giving way or what's going on, but the ship would eventually end up on its side in the bottom of the ocean. And actually there's a team of divers who went in like 2005, so it's still there, as if that would ever change. But you know, this is it. This is the end of the story of the Oceanos, which is just going down. And you can see, like, imagine with people on it, this would be terrifying. But and just to like get,
But it wasn't that terrifying because a guitarist
yeah.
had more guts than the fucking captain.
Yeah. And just in case anybody's wondering, the South African Navy did do a full sweep of the ship as they like were doing the evacuation. Like, they sent guys down. Nobody was in there. Like, everyone was off. And
That's impressive.
yeah, there it went. There it goes. Down, down, down to the bottom
There
of the
she
sea.
goes.
And it's, again, this is a really notable disaster just because it was filmed. And, you know, it happened in broad daylight near the coast. You know, and it's a story. It's one of these.
It's so thoroughly documented, too.
Yeah, it's one of these stories that's like really, really cut and dried of like who was right, who was wrong. You know, happened near a relatively civilized country. And like everybody knows what. And so relatively civilized in that they had cameras and were able to document this. But, and after this, you know, Eperotiki lines continued on. 1991 was not a good year for them. They lost because the Pegasus sank the same year, and they had just lost the Jupiter in 1988. But mostly in...
Is that close enough? Are those all close enough together to be called a trend?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Oh, boy.
Then just to follow this, I pulled up the Wikipedia page because I couldn't remember what happened. They made a deal with Carnival Cruise Lines to buy ships off of them, which would give you an idea of the condition these things were in. They got some of Carnival's oldest ships, like the to give you an idea, these ships were some of the ships, like they got the Pallas Athena through this deal. They got the ships that would become the Olympic and the Apollo, which you might know them as their other names, the RMS Empress of Britain and the RMS Empress of Canada, which were both part of the CP ships Empress line sort of thing.
I was about to say.
Which, to give you an idea, those ships were built in 1955 and 1960, and Eperotiki got them in 1993. To give you an idea of how old they were.
Relatively speaking.
The ship that would become the Apollo was the Empress of Canada, which was the TSS Mardi Gras, which I believe is like, TSS stands for like troop ship or something, but like the Mardi Gras was Carnival's first ship in like 1972. So this is after it has had all of the money wrung out of it by Carnival. And
the capitalists decided there was no more money to be made in keeping it for themselves and finally agreed to part ways with it.
Yeah. And so
they sold it to these poor bastards.
Yeah, and so in 1995, Eperotiki merged with yet another company called Sunline. No information about what Sunline is. The new company they called was called Royal Olympic Cruise Lines. Royal Olympic Cruise Lines turned into Royal Olympia Cruise Lines so that they could be listed on the NASDAQ in 1998. Royal Olympic Cruise Lines collapsed in 2005. I guarantee you that if they had continued on just a little bit longer, they would be part of Carnival. But, you know, and
just like every short line goes to G&W or Watco, everything becomes Carnival.
Basically, and that would have been really funny because they were still sailing the ship that used to be the Mardi Gras, so it would have gone back into Carnival's ownership.
That would be fun.
But yeah, shit like this is always so. It would have ended up in China probably. That's what happens to a lot of old cruise ships in around that time period. Is they ended up getting shuffled off to China in the early 2000s because China was an emerging market. And now China's its own mega market. Asia is a huge cruise market now. So now they get their own big cruise ships. And now I don't really know if there's anywhere that's an emerging cruise ship market other than like bits of Africa where like they don't have paved roads or running water. I'm not sure they're interested in cruising. Maybe the South Americans.
Probably not. Low priority.
Maybe the South Americans, but they've had this for ages too. I don't know. If you know where there's a emerging cruise market too, email us at whatever the fuck Zach said our email was at gmail.com, or email someone more competent and able to deal with this at www.carnival.com.
The address is in the show description. Please don't make me repeat it again. I'm so sorry to everybody for that.
This is worth its weight in comedy gold at this stage. But anyways, so now we must go to the next slide, which I believe you wrote, Zach. What did we learn?
Well, I can't transition over to it. What the hell? Gotta go down here and click on the next button like a caveman. We usually do a what did we learn? What changed after this? But that didn't feel appropriate for the incident I found, which is sweet and simple. But it happened almost 100 years prior.
Yeah, the captain goes down with his ship as a well-known thing and has been since like the Birkenhead in 1850 something.
Well, I mean, even just beyond the captain goes down with a ship, like how do you handle something like this? So let's go to that next slide, and we're going to see first the ship on the left, which should fly in if you hit that next button again.
I did.
Is the Alma A. Holmes. It is owned by a man named Joseph Holmes. He named it after his daughter. It was built in 1896, but I have no clue who built it. And
some great shipyard
in
a country.
Full-mast schooner.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Oh, it's a full-mast schooner. But you're saying some great shipyard in a country.
Some great shipyard in a country that still wishes it had industry, like Scotland.
Well, you know what? You're probably not wrong. It's just that country is America.
A lot of America.
More than likely, it was built in the U.S. More than likely.
Some great country that wishes it was still had industry, like the Confederate States of America.
Oh, god damn. Shots fired. All right, we just lost all of our southern states. There we go.
If they made it through the Africa's South ad, they know what we're about.
Fair enough. If they weren't turned away by us making fun of the old stars and bars.
How do you say
Confederate flag?
How do you say BRB booking a flight to South Africa in Southern English? By God, Jeremiah.
What do you mean? What do you mean I have to get on the computer? Why can't I just walk in?
To my goddamn travel agent. Okay.
What do you mean there's no more travel agents? What's Becky been doing this whole time? That's what she said. That's where she said she's been going every day. So this, Christ alive, we're gonna get comments about that one. This schooner is 1,200 tons. It is 202 feet in length. It has a 41-foot beam, and the beam is the measurement of the ship at its widest point.
It just occurred
It
to me
has
I
an-
gave none of the dimensions of the Oceanos for the entire fucking
I
episode.
thought you gave the length in there.
No.
Oops.
Nope. Don't worry about it. The ship has
Well,
some
I guess
dimensions.
I guess the Oceanos is bigger than anything we're going to talk about for the rest of the show. There's
The
your
Oce-
context.
The Oceanos is bigger than a bread box and smaller than a Death Star. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Good enough. Good enough. This little guy has an 18-foot draft, and the draft is how far it sits in the water.
Yeah.
18 feet is okay. It's all right. It's not great. That is a lot of drag. 18 feet of boat underneath the water line is a lot of drag. It's this thing is basically just almost like a gun for hire, except instead of going on military expeditions, it just hauls freight. Whoever needs freight hauled, that's who gets to load up the ship. Who has the best contract? All right, you. All right, we're taking your stuff. Where are we going?
It's what we would nowadays call a tramp steamer, which by itself is actually something that's gone quite the way of the dodo ever since the introduction.
I was about to say, nowadays we call it a tramp steamer. I don't think anything's been called a tramp steamer in the last 50 years.
Well, the entire idea of a break bulk cargo ship like this or a tramp steamer has kind of gone by the wayside since the introduction of the container. So nowadays, this is almost entirely gone. But is this just a schooner, or did they add a motor to it, like a steam boiler or something? By any chance, or is it just sail powered?
I think it is just sail powered. The unfortunate thing about this incident is that very little is known about it.
How did you find out about this?
Oddly enough, it was one of those weird things. I have no clue where I originally heard about it, but it was kind of stuck in the back of my head. And I had this thought of, ships going down, captains doing captain-y things, trying not to spoil it. But I was just like, well, didn't I hear something about this? Wasn't it called like the Holmes or something? And had to do a little bit of digging. But I found the very brief Wikipedia article about it again. There's not a lot on it. I searched, let me think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I searched 7 newspaper archives across the country trying to find this thing. And those are just the ones that I could get to with free library cards, but none of them even acknowledge the fact that this incident happened in any way, shape, or form. There are plenty of acknowledgments of these two boats' existence, but not how they met. So the Holmes is basically just, the Holmes is like a not quite so much a break bulk ship as much as it is what would be the equivalent, like a unit train today. It would get completely loaded up with one commodity and take it down.
Yeah.
Most often, this was wood that was treated with creosote that could be used for telegraph poles or railroad ties or bridge timbers or coal. Now, let's take a look at the other player in our game, and let's bring up the Belfast.
I like that this podcast may be the most complete primary source for this incident. I can't wait for someone somewhere to source this podcast in 20 years. Hi, by the way, if that's you.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. I don't know how you found this 20 years later, but
I'll tag.
Here you go.
Alma
Hope this helps you get
Holmes.
an A on your report.
I'll tag Alma A Holmes in the video tag section on YouTube. Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
There we go. And I mean, might as well put SS Belfast in there too, because the Belfast is a steamship. It was built. It's a lot newer. It was built in 1909 at the Bath Iron Works in Maine. This thing is a passenger ship. It is 335 feet long. I have no clue how wide the beam was, but it is a lot faster, partially because it only has a 10-foot draft. That is almost 50% less drag than the Alma A Holmes. It is steel construction. It is a modern machine. It is owned by the Eastern Steamship Company, and the most frequent route that it was used on was between Penobscot Bay, Maine, and Boston, Massachusetts. And it would do most frequently like overnight shuttles. This was a floating hotel because it was used. It was designed to be used on overnight routes. You know, go to sleep, get on the ship, go to sleep, wake up in your destination. Everything's great,
Yeah,
and
this
it's
is
still
like
faster than trains at this point.
yeah, this was going to be like competing directly with the railroads at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely, it was. And they did. I did find some advertisements that did specifically point out a couple of routes that this company ran that were faster than trains available at that time.
Yeah, the main central hates him, and it's a picture of this ship.
And the capacity of it absolutely blows any train at that time out of the water. This this had a massive dining room, so you could have dinner before you went to bed. It had 204 staterooms and 222 berths. The total capacity for passengers, I don't know about the crew load, but passengers was 940 people on this
Wow.
one ship.
Yeah, that's
And
more than was on the
it was a very
Oceanos.
it was a very modern machine, but you know, they could cram more people into smaller spaces because you're only supposed to be on there for one night.
Yeah.
You're not going to be on there for 14 fucking nights like the Oceanos
Jesus, yeah.
because they're not insane. So as part of the this was almost a purpose designed or a purpose built boat. One of the things that it was built with was 3 screw propellers, 1 central and 2 outboard screw propellers, and the 2 outboard screw propellers could be controlled independently of each other. And they used this to their advantage when getting out of docks in tight waterways because one of the places it went was a little I can't even remember the name of it. It's a little town that's up a river in Maine, and they would take this thing all the way up there because it only had a 10-foot draft. It could go pretty much anywhere a anything bigger than a rowboat could. And they would use those independently controlled screw propellers to gently wiggle its way out of the dock anywhere it went.
Oh, okay.
And it was noted as being nimble and quick. And this, like I said, this was on the forefront of ship technology at this time. It's kind of unfortunate that this isn't still around because I feel like this would make a great museum ship.
Yeah, museum
Um,
ships are always like hit and miss whether or not it's the SS. We never cared about this, but we wanted to preserve it anyways.
Mm.
Or it's the like single most well kept ship ever heard of.
Oh, it all depends on if you have a multi-billionaire benefactor or not, because an operating ship is a big hole in the water. A museum ship is a marginally smaller hole in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's only marginally smaller because you don't have to pay for fuel. And that's it.
Still leaks.
So
Still can sink. It's always
yeah. It still has to be painted. Deck still has to be replaced every now and then. But you know what you can save money on with this hole in the water? Remember that number I just told you, 940 people.
Yeah.
Do you see how many lifeboats are visible right there on the Belfast?
I'm seeing hang on a second. I'm seeing not enough, but I'm also looking at the date here. That doesn't square properly.
They didn't learn that lesson. So
What do you mean they didn't learn
this
that
ship
lesson?
was this ship was built with not enough lifeboat capacity. The 940 people could be on the ship, The life boat's capacity was only 240. The life raft capacity, because apparently there is a difference. I didn't take a look at what the actual difference is. The life raft capacity was only 324. Now you do a little bit of math and that comes out to 564. And you don't have to do math to figure out that 564 is less than 940.
Are we counting the Irish as people yet? Maybe that's how they get around that.
Ooh, we're getting
It is sailing
it's still a
to
new
Boston.
idea at this point.
There's a bunch of redheads who will float if you throw them in the water because they don't have souls.
Well, also it's going to be staying pretty close to shore along its entire journey. So I think that was part of their justification.
Okay.
So the Belfast did not have a spotless career.
Few ships
It was
do.
commanded by a man named Captain A.E. Raleigh, and he notably had several incidents of running the Belfast into things. The most recent one prior to go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's always something. You can never just... no ship has a clean history like 100%. It's impossible.
No. Something always happens. And if you're lucky, if you're fortunate, the things that happen just weren't your fault. We're going to see both.
Okay.
So the last incident that the Belfast had been involved in was in May 1911. It collided with another steamship called the J.T. Morse. Again, very little information was available about that one. I'm not sure what happened, but somehow after hitting a dock and taking out that dock, hitting the steamship, and then on October 10th, 1914, the Belfast struck the Alma A. Holmes. Somehow through all of this, Captain Raleigh kept his job, and I'll come back to that in just a second. But at some point, I found varying accounts, either late in the evening or like in the dead of night. There was a thick fog somewhere off the coast of Massachusetts, and the Belfast straight up T-boned the Alma A. Holmes. And this was problematic for the Holmes because the Belfast is made completely of steel and it did not give a fuck that it just ran into a wooden schooner. The Holmes was almost split cleanly in half. But it didn't go down. It didn't go down immediately. There was a brief moment of panic. The crews of both ships came out and assessed the damage. And then after a few minutes of realizing that there was no immediate danger, the captain of the A.E. Holmes, who's Alma A.E. Holmes, whose name is lost to time, and Captain Raleigh of the Belfast walked out onto the deck. Supposedly, Raleigh was able to just cleanly step onto the deck, from the deck of the Belfast onto the Holmes, and told the captain of the Holmes that he would take on the entire crew of this schooner, got everybody over to the Belfast, and then decided that that was a better time to try to separate the Belfast from the Holmes. And it's a good thing he waited, because the Holmes was loaded to the gills with coal. It was going to Virginia, if I recall correctly, and it was, if it wasn't at capacity, it was over capacity, because safety wasn't a thing back then. They don't care about it being overloaded, a little bit, a lot,
invented
maybe.
until 1971.
Absolutely. So because the Holmes was loaded with so much coal, it was so heavy that when the slow reverse order was finally given to the crew of the Belfast and the Belfast was backed out of the Holmes sank within 1 minute. It was just
Oh.
gone. But because we had two captains who did not abandon their ship and did not panic and flee immediately and leave everybody who doesn't know how to do anything with a ship besides ride on it to themselves, there were no fatalities. As a matter of fact, reportedly, the Belfast didn't have any damage that would impede the operation of the ship. There was cosmetic damage, and that was it. So that I like this one because it just shows, what happens if you don't panic. You just take a few breaths, you walk out, you assess the damage, you walk over to the other guy's boat and assess the damage, and then go, "Yeah, my bad, bro. Come on, get everybody over here, and we'll take care of this in the morning."
Calm people live, panicked people die. And that's exactly
Absolutely
what happened here. Everyone was calm, made the transfer, and then the boat just fucking sinks.
Now, speaking of calm, I wouldn't have been calm if I was Captain Raleigh of the Belfast, because as far as I can tell, this was not chalked up to either captain's fault. It was supposedly extremely foggy. Um, I think the only thing that came of this was that Raleigh was got kind of a slap on the wrist for supposedly operating too fast for conditions, but I could not figure out how they determined that. How do they know how fast he was going?
Fast enough to not avoid it. It's
It's
one of these. One
that's-
of these. You hit it, didn't you?
Well, did you do it? Well, you're going too fast then. But despite this and several other incidents involving the Belfast hitting things, most of which were Captain Raleigh's fault, he retired with a full pension after 40 years of service, most of which was with the Eastern Steamship Company. They never, once he got on the Belfast, they never took him off that ship. He retired on the day that the Belfast made its last sailing out of Maine.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I guess because safety wasn't invented yet, he could just keep his job.
Safety wasn't invented yet, or this is our toughest ship. Even he can't sink it.
All right, I'm going with that theory now. Yeah. All right.
Even this idiot can't sink it.
He's proven it like 6 times now. There's nothing that can be done to take this thing down. At least nothing he can do.
Yeah, right.
But part of the reason that the Belfast made its last run, I want to say 1921, I believe it was. It went for quite a while after this incident. Part of the reason it went out of service was because there was an inquiry by Congress as to ship safety. And one of the things that they found was that, oh, hey, this one doesn't have adequate means of escape because there aren't enough life vessels for the number of people that this ship can hold. And bear in mind, the inquiry that I found said that this rescue capacity of 564 people, that was the summer capacity. They would take more boats off in the winter when they weren't carrying as many people, but it would still be not enough for the number of people that they were carrying.
Yep. No, it's God, it was so fucking wild. I'm just shocked that they didn't have to put more lifeboats on it, considering that in April of 1912, some other ship without a lot of lifeboats.
I want to say 12, yeah.
So another ship without a lot of lifeboats had an incident, and some people died. You may have heard of it. There was a movie about it.
And the congressional inquiry wasn't until the 20s.
Of course. That's okay. No, that makes more sense.
Which probably means that something else happened. Like they kind of looked that one over because that wasn't.
It might have been maybe the sinking of the SS Eastland, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't think that's true though, because although you know that the whole
But
reason
I think maybe because the Titanic was part of the White Star Line, which notably was not American, maybe they just kind of went, well, that won't happen to us.
and then they sort of had to think and went, oh shit, this will happen to us.
Oh, wait. We don't float better than they do? What the fuck?
It was.
Yeah, that's it. What could have been a life-ending disaster for a lot of people. There's so little information about this. I don't know how many were on board either ship at the time of the incident, but I mean, truly anything this avoidable, every single loss of life is tragic. So it could have been 10 times worse, and it didn't, because both the captains literally just walked out to the collision site and went, huh, that kind of sucks, huh? Well, let's do what we can, and we'll get you all out of here.
Yep.
They just stayed cool.
They stayed cool. Also, now that we're at the end of the podcast, I would like to just say, because otherwise it will bug me, I'm going to give you the dimensions of the Oceanos now, because it's I'm so fucking bad at this. The Oceanos was 502 feet long, had a gross tonnage of 14,000, was 66-foot beam, 23-foot draft, 9 decks in its final configuration, maximum cruising speed of 18.5 knots, 550 passengers, 250 crew. Built at the forges at Chantiers de la Gironde shipyard in Bordeaux. At Lormont, I'm sorry, near Bordeaux.
Near Bordeaux.
So
it has to be built in Bordeaux, otherwise it's just a sparkling ship.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's a sparkling Oswald the Lucky Rabbit fan fiction.
Don't you fucking dare bring that back up. Oh my God. I had forgotten about that. My life was going well. I had forgotten about that. But I think that's a podcast.
That is a podcast. Thank you very much to everyone for listening. We'll be back next time. We're almost to episode 10. Double digits. Ooh. But
yeah. Okay, so yeah, we just finished 9. I think we just published number 5 earlier this week.
Yes,
as of time of recording.
Yes, we did.
It's definitely going a lot farther than I thought it was going to, but I'm having fun with it.
I am too. Get to learn a lot of things.
Gives me.
Never heard of the SS Belfast.
I won't say where I do most of my research, but I will say it does help pass a lot of time.
Yeah, I just happen to know all this shit. It's great. I can just finally 28 years of storing this information. It can just be vomited out somewhere.
There we go. We finally found a use for it.
Yep.
Thank you all for listening. And if you have any transit safety stories that you would like to share with us, passenger, employee, random person on the sidewalk who witnessed something, drop us a line. The email is in the description. If you need me to read it out for you for some reason, I will do it one more time this episode. That is SYDDOYWTW@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. And I think I'll kind of expand it just a little bit. Did you see anything outrageous or particularly humorous on public transit? Like, you ever see somebody going around with the wrong destination sign for even the city that they're in or something? I want to hear that too. We need transit stories. So God help us.
Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on me. And that's something that gives me intense joy and Zach's mental trauma. So then we're good.
I really don't. I can provide several stories. I don't really want to, because it's kind of
personally
identifying. I don't want to shit talk of previous. Yeah, there's a lot of personally identifying information for not just me in there in these stories, but I don't know.
I was going to say stories that have
that's like a cheap.
personal
Well,
repercussions.
I think the statute of limitations is up on most of these by now.
This is when this is how the audience finds out when you move out of Texas, is just suddenly there's like 3 episodes in a row of this is something that happened at my job. This is the person's name, when the exact date, and the photographs that occurred. This is like the burning every bridge on your way out of town.
Oh, hell, I could make several stories right off the bat of, let's see. You know what? I think I've only mentioned in the first episode that I used to be a streetcar motorman. I could tell you about so many times that I had my night ruined by some dumbass like brake checking a 40-ton streetcar and thinking they'd win.
Oh, fuck off.
I got receipts of all of those because I had to take an accident investigation photos for them.
Oh
But,
my god.
yeah, I don't know. That might have to be one of our lazy episodes, as Zach just tells you about how fucked up Dallas drivers are.
Just that if you would like to hear that, please email us at the email in the description. If you don't want to hear that, please email us at the email in the description. If you'd like to hear something else, please email us in the description. If you would like to email us, please email us in the description. I don't.
And if your name is Mike and you're listening to this while driving a truck, I already have enough stories. I don't need more from you. That may be a later episode though. So thank you. Yes, I remember the time you almost got arrested. We'll get to that story someday.
Personal call outs. If you would like us to personally call out someone you know is listening, please email us.
All right. I think that's it. I think we've gone on enough for tonight. So thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.